Yes, the question was, in many of these sequences, we're called upon to visualize letters, seed syllables, and so my question first was, do we visualize the Sanskrit letter or the Tibetan letter? And the second part of that is there a reference specifically for Tibetan letters? I always like to visualize them as, Tibetan letters.
Yes.
But I often don't know what does the Hrim letter look like, right? So I don't have a picture in my mind for it. Is there a convenient reference that would show us those?
Right. So I don't know of one, actually, I must say. Although I just thought of this book. I'm wondering if they probably have Lanza letters in here, that is Sanskrit letters. I'm sure you all know this book, published in Italy by of the paintings on the wall in the temple in Dharamsala of the deities of the Kālachakra. Does everyone know this book? Yes? No? You've never seen this one? So, okay. So it's here. I'll leave it here on the table in the evening and for tomorrow. But they show the different deities, but I was wondering if they had letters, but I don't see. I should make a bunch of pictures with my phone for this and then put a slide thing. But this is still not working, right, Justin? Justin? The the projector still doesn't work, right? This.
Let me check with Michael and Nina. I think they got it fixed.
What's that? Yeah, I don't see any special page or set for letters. You see, these letters here are important letters of the deities involved, but they're what's called lenza, Sanskrit lenza, an ornate Sanskrit script called lenza. So I'm sorry. But did you search the internet?
No.
Okay.
Although the problem is that because there's often so many letters used in conjunction, it would be good to have a print reference where you could look up very quickly, right in front of you, what the various letters were. And I suppose with that too is it would be great if there was a version of this that could show us both the letters and like little pictures of the gods and goddesses and various spiritual entities.
Here is images for Tibetan mantra letters. Top reading in Google. It says images for Tibetan mantra letters. It has Om Mani Padme Hum, of course, it's focused on. But let's see when you click that one, where do you get? Yeah, here we go. Well, not so many. Because it's a blank. It's taking time to load. Slow connection in here. Yeah, there's a ah. Yeah, you can find quite a bit. Om Vagishvara Vagishvari Mum. There's this one. Om Vagishvari Mum. Om Mani Padme Hum, of course.
This sounds like it might be a great project for us all to work on and pull it together.
That's a stylized Owen. That's a stylized Om. But that's it's very similar to the Tibetan Om, but it's a little bit stylized, more like a Sanskrit Om. That's a Ah. So I think probably if you go to this site, and you can pretty much find, although of course I guess if they're not identified in English, some of the letters, but you have most of this. Taritu Tarituri Swaha, the mantra wheel of Tara.
We just had an idea from the group.
Yeah, there's a lot of letters in there.
Tenzing.
First hitting Google. Ask Google. I like Google. Actually, I like Google.
If there's interest from the group in pulling this resource together, speak to me afterwards. There's a couple of people here that sound like they're interested in pulling this together so we can make this resource available.
Actually, let's start by saying, well, any more questions first? That's right. What am I doing? Well, any more questions? Yes, William. William has a question. Olivia, okay, Livia. What?
Okay, very quickly. My question was, and I may be overthinking this, but if we all go through the text, each of us, we imagine a mandala in our own head.
I'm not
Can you hear
hearing
me now?
What's that?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we all read through the text, we all we all imagine this mandala in our own head, but it's a separate image we all have. And during the Kālachakra, when all the monks chant, somehow it seems to me like they are all building one mandala. And how is it that they all have access to one? How do they put all their individual ones together?
I missed your middle sentence. It's not your voice, it's my problem, but please tell me again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So when we go through the text, we each imagine a mandala based on
Yeah.
what we read.
Yeah.
But somehow during the Kālachakra, it seems like they are all building a big one, a massive one, to which they all have access. But it's just one. It's not like it's a universe of small little mandalas. And my question is, how do they pull it all together? How is it that it's just a big one? And
I mean, in the ritual.
yeah, in the ritual.
In the ritual. Well, I guess what it is when they make the actual powder mandala, in the rituals of making the powder mandala, when they make the geometric lines, you know, in which they then put the powder and everything like that, what they're doing is they are visualizing the giant mandala. That's completely, and the different universe, they're visualizing that to whatever degree the different ones are capable of doing it. And since all of the monks at the Namgyal have done the Lerung retreat, except maybe some really junior ones, they have a sense at least of the mind mandala building. So they're all holographing away in their imaginations while they're going around and doing things by having become familiar about that. So just like right now, you're in this room and you've been here for a couple of days on and off, but you don't know how many windows are on the back wall or what. There's a lot of detail that you're not familiar with, but you sort of feel familiar with the room. So you have a sense of the room. So it's like that, I think. And then what they do is they pull the line. They visualize hooking the line from the hologram and putting it down on the diagram. And so they're pulling from the mandala, from the three-dimensional holographic palace universe, into this diagram for it. And similarly, the diagram has a feeling of subliminally, when you see it, it gives you the seed of being able to build that hologram in your imagination. But like any such thing, it takes a long time of familiarization. It's like if you've ever built a house, or even working with an architect, you say you have built a house and you go and talk to them and then they make a plan and you try to visualize that and then it starts to go up, etc. Well, if you're the architect, you really have a sense of you dream about, oh no, I want to move that room a little this way of the wall. You get to where that becomes a space that you're familiar with. And nowadays, I think when the real estate people, they create virtual rooms and houses and show people, to do that. So it's like that. You could complete, as I said, the younger ones, they make a little mini house of the Kālachakra, like a doll house. And they see the beam, how many beams go here, and what color they are, and this kind of thing, like a playhouse, But then this helps them visualize it, So you slowly get to where you're in that, and I think in the ritual, the teacher is visualizing that, and all the monks who have been trained have been in the discipline with him for years, some of the elder ones, and they all together sort of have a hologram that they mutually resonate in, and then they do all those things in that. So that's, I think, how it happens. It's like a morphic resonance. This wonderful, in England there with you have Rupert Sheldrake, although I think he moved, actually. Maybe he moved to California. He finally got tired of Richard Dawkins down the hall and moved to California. But he had that concept of morphic resonance. And he's used that to study in different markets and local TV stations, showing certain images and then having questionnaires given to people. And He studied it in relation to human beings, in relation to fashions and fads, how everybody starts to think that this looks good and that looks good. Because the brains pick up the vibes of the other patterns of the people, So they do that to some extent in that visualization, and but not that many. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people, so not that many necessarily do it. But others sort of subliminally feel that something special is happening, something like that, Whatever. Yes, Diana. What? It's not only the volume; it's the sort of slowness and the diction. I don't know why my brain doesn't work well or something. Old age.
I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the alternate reality that we were talking about, the mandala as the alternate reality? Or
No.
is that something different?
There's no relative reality that's the ultimate reality.
Alternate.
All relative realities are relative.
No, but the alternate. You said that we were building.
It's the alternate reality. Yes.
You said
The alternate reality is not only the mandala palace, but it's the whole alternate universe. Like these wheels you see around there in the water, that's the oceans. That's the wind outside the atmosphere. That's the fire. That's the circle of electricity where all the lightning flashes between the stratosphere and the atmosphere. And there's the earth is that smaller, narrower gold line. And so that symbolizes the outer the outer defense wall of a whole universe. So this universe is dissolved in pralaya, what they call, in post-big crunch, their version of it, which is not like one little thing, big bang, happening for no cause, just that spontaneously. That's just a legend. The guy who came up with the mathematics for that was a Belgian Jesuit priest. After he published it, and then Einstein and people saw it, they were thrilled because it was good mathematics. And the Pope of the time wanted to hold a press conference to congratulate him for discovering something similar to Genesis. And he called the Vatican and said, please don't do that. I want this accepted as a scientific thing. But it's subconsciously, it resonates with the idea that there's this first beginning. All high priests in the world want to tell you that they know the first beginning of everything. And they are in charge of it, and therefore you have to listen to them. And beginninglessness, infinity going back, kind of dethrones authority in a certain way. Everybody's been at it forever, and what are we going to do now becomes the point, Yes?
I heard this new idea that the Big Bang may actually be the Big Bounce, that we've got an oscillating universe that lasts forever, but it's like, sorry. Yes,
There were people wanting to say that from the moment of the Big Bang.
Yes, which, whoa.
But I'm telling you, redshift, and that means planets and star systems and galaxies running away from us. That's just they're being sensible. We're not behaving well, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I don't know. Don't worry about it. What were we talking about?
Okay. William had a question over
So it's a whole universe then, alternative universe. Yes. Yes, William.
I had a more general question. I hope there's time for it. I was interested in the.
Please speak really vigorously with sharp diction, or I'll have to run over there.
I'm interested in
I'll come over.
how did the history of how the Kālachakra Tantra came into being.
Yes.
How it evolved.
Yes.
And whether it was something that was
Yes.
acceptable,
Well,
and whether it was
yes.
taught at Nalanda or
Yes.
not.
Well, the history of it is that Shakyamuni Buddha, on the day that during the time in which he was teaching Prajnaparamita Sutra on Vulture Peak in Rajagriha in Bihar, he manifested a body of Kālachakra in Amaravati in Andhra Pradesh. And a bunch of people came from Shambhala, which is somewhere in the Arctic, Siberia or something like that. Actually, it's not Mount Kailash, and it's not Tibet, it's not Himalayas. It's somewhere like Siberia, North Pole, or maybe over the North Pole, who knows, because they were not having the same world model. But it was in the Indian direction from the pole, actually, so not really over the North Pole. And they came there in various flying vehicles, and they requested this. And then inside a stupa, the great Amaravati stupa, Manjushri built manifested a Yamantaka mandala. And then inside that Yamantaka mandala, the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, created a Kālachakra mandala universe. And then all the Shambhalans came into that universe. And not really many local Indian humans at that time. And he taught the Kālachakra Tantra in a huge 12,000 line or something like that. Text was recorded by Vajrapani from that teaching. And then they took it back with them to Shambhala. And then the seventh king of Shambhala, each king ruled about 100 years. And so 700 years after that, during the reign of the seventh king, whose name was Yashas, who was himself an incarnation of Manjushri, the Brahmins, Shambhala, although it was not India, they had a caste system like India, and there were Brahmins and Kshatriyas and people like that, and they spoke Sanskrit, supposedly. And so the Brahmins finally got tired of this Kālachakra. It was too complicated. They decided they were going to emigrate down to India to have something simple and nice, living there with the other Brahmins in India. And they went out, but then it was so difficult to traverse all the deserts and mountain ranges and ice and snow and whatever. They all passed out in the desert. And then some day, Manjushri sent some sort of protectors to ferry them all back, and they all came back to Shambhala. And the head of them was called Suryarata, was his name, the sun chariot, one who has the sun as a chariot. And so then he said, okay, I will write a shorter Kālachakra Tantra for you guys, and which you can understand. And then I will also, my son Pundarika, who's incarnation of Avalokiteshvara, when he will write a commentary on it called Vimala Prabha. And I will initiate all of you. And then, but there's one thing I'm going to do. And that is, you'll be happier when we abolish the caste system. And after the whole kingdom receives initiation, there will be only one caste in the kingdom, which will be called the Vajra caste. And so we're all this one caste. And which is like a democratic constitutional monarch, actually, sort of, something like that. And then it stayed there, and then about 1,200 years later, or something like that, or 1,000 years after that, some guy got to Shambhala from India, some yogi Siddha, adept, and really loved the thing and began to bring some texts back. And there were a couple, I think, who went back and forth. One was called Chilupa, which may be or may not be the same as Tilupa, nobody really knows, or Kālachakra Buddha was another one. And then it started spreading in India around 9th century, which is around the time that the Muslim invasions were getting more numerous and more powerful, and they were really settling down on top of things instead of just looting and pillaging. And the Kālachakra Tantra supposedly predicted that. And then, since then, it's been, of course, it's still in Shambhala, wherever that is, if it exists, and it's become known in India. But very quickly, since Buddhism itself was wrecked in India, it became really only Tibet and then later Mongolia, where the Kālachakra Tantra was known. It is not known in China or East Asia or any other Mahayana place. So that's the story. Now, Westerners, of course, who never believe there's such a thing as a Buddha, I think I told you all that. Western modern scholarship, which unfortunately the Japanese have also adopted, there's no such thing as an enlightened being, a Buddha, who can manifest different bodies and who can look ahead centuries and predict things and so forth. And the sure proof of why Buddha was not enlightened, Buddha didn't have a PhD from Oxford or Harvard. So therefore he couldn't be enlightened. That's the true thing, according to them. Because why? They're enlightened. Right? They're looking at history, and then people have all these religious ideas, and they're all backward and primitive and who knows what. So they can't believe that. So they think this is some version of tantras that emerged from the other unexcelled yoga tantras, merged out of the Chakrasambhara complex of tantric literature, and Hevajra, the mother tantras, and emerged from that in interaction with the Kashmir Shaiva tradition, especially in those regions that the Muslims hadn't crushed Buddhism yet, which was Kashmir and far eastern Bengal. And then they became, the Shambhala prophecy part of it became a kind of ghost dance thing, where, you know, the people coming in are destroying the Dharma, but there is a Dharma country that someday will come back, and they will then, the way they did it, it being a Buddhist thing, the Muslims will, when they will see Shambhala, which has been hidden, they will then invade it, and then after they've invaded it, the Shambhalans will use magical powers and repel the invasion, and then their dominance of the entire planet will be undone, and then Dharma will flourish also over the planet. But the Dharma that flourishes is a multi-traditional Dharma. It's not Buddhism. That's a very important point, A. B, and B, in defeating them, they only defeat their extremist ideology. They don't destroy even Islam, the religion, that which is in the commentary. But it's kind of a little, it's like a Buddhist Armageddon or something like that. And it fits with Kālachakra having a Moga Siddhi in the east, because Kālachakra is the only Buddhist teaching that teaches a kind of progressive development of the planet and its peoples in Shakyamuni's era. So you have like a progressive thing, you know, like the sort of materialists don't have a progressive thing, or they did until recently. Now they're a little bit freaking out. But they, you know, 1898 London, you know, we're going to make the beautiful material world and everything will be perfect by science and technology, right? That's a progressive sort of idea of history. So Kālachakra is a progressive thing in Buddhist history. But the way it works is that the enlightened countries, when they become enlightened, they become gentle, they get invaded, they get dominated by dominator-type ideologies, and which they associate with the Muslim, actually with all of the Abrahamic traditions, but the latest form of it being the Islamic one. And so they take over, and then once they conquer, then they become assimilated into the more gentle, female balanced life mode of gentleness and nonviolence and beauty and blah, 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 you know. So that's the Westerners take it like that, you know. The Buddhists take it like Shambhala really is there, and they really have a higher technology and a blah, 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 like that. Okay, so those are two histories. You take your pick, depending on what your predilection is, whether you're a materialist or you're out there. Actually, I'm very emboldened because in the Vimalakirti Sutra, Dzongzar Khyentse Rinpoche, in his introduction, he remarks on the fact that at the beginning of the Vimalakirti Sutra, which is where Vimalakirti is not in the first chapter, the Buddha and his disciples are in the first 2 or 3 chapters. Well, Vimalakirti is introduced in the second, but then Buddha, there's the third and fourth and first. Vimalakirti is there. Buddha is there. And then Buddha is asked about when he's outside of this great city Vaishali, and then 500 young Lichavis come there, the citizens of that city, like New Yorkers, you know. They come, and they all have jeweled parasols because of the Indian sun, and they lay them down as an offering to the Sangha in front of Buddha. As they prostrate themselves, they bow, and they circumambulate him 3 times, and then they sit down like an audience, along with thousands of monks and bodhisattvas, you know, usual huge thing. In Amrapalivana, who was a movie star, actually, and she's hosting the Buddha. And the older people from Vaishali are not coming to see him because they're mad he's staying out in the suburbs at the house of the movie star instead of staying in the mayor's special visitor guest palace. So the young ones come. And then immediately when they put this big pile, 500 jeweled parasols in front of the Buddha to be given to the Sangha, the Buddha does a miracle where this forms a huge, one giant parasol over the whole assembly. And when the people look into it, they see all the different phenomena of the universe. They see oceans, other planets, all aspects of this planet, cities, towns, mountain ranges. They see everything in there. And when I had to translate it, I was like, what is this? Then I realized it was a planetarium. It's like the Rose Planetarium. And so anyway, Dzongzar Khyentse is going, now we all don't believe that. We think that's a silly thing because we are like a worm that bores its way into a piece of wood and thinks that the space it has in there is the universe. So he's saying that inconceivable liberation, there's more to the notion of inconceivable liberation than we really know what's really going on this planet, you know. And so anyway, so that's the history of it. And therefore the Dalai Lama's changing of Tibetan tradition. Oh yeah, and therefore because the Kālachakra in Shambhala every year and maybe several times a year is taught by the king, who is now the 22nd of the democratic kings and the 29th of all the kings. They give the big mass initiation to the whole population of the country. It's like a vast thing that happens. And because of that, the Tibetan tradition is that a Dalai Lama or a Panchen Lama, only those two traditionally, would give to the whole, they all come to Lhasa or Shigatse, and they would do a giant Kālachakra for everybody who could get there, knowing very well that most of the people are not going to practice Kālachakra yoga. You know, they're lay people and they're nomads and whatever, but it's a big blessing for them all. You know, so that became the tradition. And then in the early 60s, when His Holiness was, and His Holiness did that once in Tibet, and then in the early 60s, he was in Dharamsala, and he was, you know, he had these dreams, and he was practicing more the Kālachakra yoga himself. And then he had dreams in which Vishvamata came to him. Well, you know this because this was in our book. So Vishvamata told him, you should do Kālachakra a lot for lots of people. Because he really loved it when he was doing the yoga and the practice himself, more than he could have had he been stayed in Lhasa. And of course for exiles in diaspora, and then eventually since the 90s and 80s, then some Tibetans could get out of China, you know, after the death of the Mao and the end of the Gang of Four, and when Deng was trying to be appeasing toward him to get him to come back. For a brief while, Deng was trying to be appeasing, like 80 to 84 or 3 like that. And so it was a great thing for the Tibetan exiles, who of course had seen their culture and their world shattered by this communist invasion and occupation and annexation, and thought reform and class struggle and basically extermination in certain areas, programs. And you know, the idea that this ghost dance type of idea fit very well. And so, but that's not in Dalai Lama's mind. In Dalai Lama's mind is keeping the hope going that world peace is accessible, and himself and the monks practicing Kālachakra yoga and expanding the number of people who practice the Kālachakra yoga even to people in other countries. And now he's up to number 34, I think now, or he's done 34, or was it 33 we had in Bulgaria, or 34, I can't remember. That was the 34th, so now the next one will be 35th, if he does another one. Now, since around the 32nd, it was like, that's it, I'm not doing any more, but then he does do another one, etc. So, so that's very, very crucial it's a very deep thing for the Dalai Lama and for the planet. And I felt that the first one he did in the US, which I think was the first one he did in a non-Indian, non-Tibetan exile community place, although some Westerners I've been going to them since the 60s, but in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, I had a thing of like, when I was sitting during one of the breaks next to Lake Mendota, which is the lake that's near downtown Madison, Wisconsin, where the university is. And I saw I was dangling my toes in a hot day in the water, and there were ripples going from the toes in the lake. And these ripples became the wave of the Kālachakra, and the wave of the concept of the best of all possible worlds. And they flowed down to Washington. This was Reagan here, right? No, beginning of the end. But the waves were everywhere. Goodness was, it's the vision of goodness as more powerful than evil, you know, and violence. Goodness and gentleness and nonviolence being more powerful, actually. Because deep in our Western culture, whether Judeo or Christian or Islamic, is the idea that the bad guys are more powerful and the good guys will get their reward in heaven, maybe, if they're really good, and they get properly wasted and don't get too upset about it. But in the Buddha's vision, why it was captivating in so many cultures throughout history is that it envisions the good as more powerful, definitely, far more powerful. and the good in yourself and your good fortune of your life and of your possibility and your potential and the world's potential. But usually he doesn't interfere with the Kali Yuga idea in India and his culture, like he didn't interfere with what they thought the earth was. And but then there are these things inside that, where there's this positive thing, and as that slowly spreads, then maybe the world will come up with a better attitude. Because one of the great reasons why we don't stop climate change and why we haven't put a stop to these ridiculous defense budgets all over the place is people subliminally feel things can't work out. Buckminster Fuller was very good at that, the great Buckminster Fuller. He always said that, and he blamed the world religions, actually. And you can blame an aspect of Buddhism, the one that fits with the sort of Indian, everything is declining attitude. There is an aspect of Buddhism like that. And he said that the world religions had given human beings an inferiority complex. And they felt that the world was just not good enough for anybody, and they wouldn't work out, and there would always be scarcity, and everything was not going to work out. So everybody has a defeatist attitude, actually. And like, for example, everybody thinks there's not enough resources to feed everybody. So therefore people hoard, and they don't mind people starving to death someplace, or they send a little few bags of like really bad bleached flour that will give them like colon cancer. But anyway, they'll do something, but they won't really make, share, because if you share, then you don't have enough, because the concept is there isn't enough. And actually, the Kālachakra view, Buddha view, is if people use their reason and their science and they make planning and they do it, then there is enough. Everyone can be reasonably okay. And there's plenty of more suffering of other animals, and no human needs to be in a real mess all their life. It's not necessary. We could all be in really good. Buckminster Fuller wanted us all to be, everyone at birth, to be awarded a lifetime scholarship and a MacArthur grant to sit and go fishing if they wanted. And he was sure that thousands of people would invent fantastic things with this kind of support and support the whole thing. He was like an agent from Shambhala, I think, Buckminster Fuller, with his geodesic dome. He was really great. So those are the histories, and you take your pick about the history, whether Buddha was a time machine, and whether the planet is a time machine, or whether it's a mess going down the drain, mismanaged by ignorance. Either one, whichever you like. I believe we had this discussion about the final page of the book, remember? Yeah. The question I still have is... We averted, in the Dalai Lama's vision, we averted the planet being a desert and all dried out, and climate change and the ocean bubbling, we averted that. And it's green, and the Taras are taking care of it, and Avalokiteshvara. Remember?
Last
and
question.
Bill was dragged along reluctantly into an optimistic version of history. Weren't you, Bill?
I wondered if we know if the Kālachakra was taught or practiced at Nalanda.
Oh, sure.
It was.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And of course it was. And the Manchus were also into it, but not the Chinese. Because somehow the Bodhisattva, Manjushri, who particularly cares for the Chinese, he's a bit Wanjushali, he's called in Chinese, and his holy land on earth is in the Wutaishan, in the Shanxi province. And somehow they didn't feel that the Chinese were ready until today for the tantras, especially Unexcelled Yoga Tantras. Somehow, but then it hopped over and the Japanese got into it. But I don't, Chinese and Koreans, I think, did not get into it much. They have a little, but almost nothing about Tantra. They stuck with the Pure Land and Zen. Well, Zen has an esoteric side also, but it isn't like Tantra. And the thing is, they're scared of the women, The Confucius was from, had in his book of history, there's a female-dominated dynasty in the past of the Chinese before the Zhou dynasty, and it was really bad scene. So the Chinese patriarchal thing was very rigid until recently. And then if you don't like females, then you're not going to like Tantra. Yes. If you don't want to see them empowered. Yes. Owen, what?
Yeah, going with that, you were talking about the end of
The what?
going with what you were just saying about the end of Man of Peace, the book.
Yes.
I believe it's in there that you talk about Kālachakra and the idea of pulling a future timeline closer to now, a positive.
Well, that's always my hope and fantasy. That
So
the many, many initiations, instead of just one in a lifetime or two, are somehow trying to compress the next 400 years. Because the time of Shambhala on Earth, expanding from Shambhala, is said to be 400 years, 412 years from now, or something around that. And in the 60s, I was certain it was next week. And I want it to be next week, right? But what have we been having since then? Nixon, Reagan, Bush, and now we have, I don't know what we have. So it keeps going wrong, you know. And they blew the beautiful thing where we could have all been totally in love with Russia and vice versa. And now they temporarily have blown it, you know, from both sides, not just the Russian side, from our side also. And so back to oligarchs now, you know. So maybe 400 years is the case. Who knows? I don't know. But let's hope so. But the great thing is, you see, it's like when you're really absorbed in something and you're really into it, and as it goes along, it seems like there's a lot of time. But when it ends, it's like it was just a minute. So more extreme than that, whenever Shambhala happened, whenever Nirvana happened, this is my consolation prize that I always try to share with everyone. Whenever Nirvana happens to whoever it is in many lifetimes in the future, it will be perceived that it had already happened even now, and also way into the infinite past. And so therefore, although now it might seem a long time before one gets to realize Kālachakra or realize communion, as I call the Yuganada, the fifth stage of the perfection stage, which is the form of Buddhahood that the Mahasiddha attains. The path name is called Yuganada, which nada means the bonding of a pair. Yuga means a pair. So the communion, communion, and male-female communion, universe communion, great seal, the whole universe of objects in union, in ecstatic great bliss communion with the subjectivity, bliss and void in communion, etc. In that time, so that's already happened, but we don't know it. So no matter how long it takes, retroactively we'll be there now. We'll be then now, retroactively. That's a consolation I have for the fact that even on a beautiful day, zooming down the freeway in a Harley with no radar traps, breaking road contact at 80 into something a little more floaty, and zooming along, perfect weather, it's still not nirvana, we think. Going home, and don't get any ideas, don't break 70. But anyway, Dalai Lama's, one of the aspects is, he always has three levels of aspect. One aspect is he is trying to keep up the spirits of his people in exile and under really oppressive occupation. That's his role as a Tibetan. As a world religious leader, he's trying to show the positivity is possible and the good is still happening and the good will be triumphant. And then as a human being, he's showing this world peace through inner peace. And he's trying to keep everybody's spirits up around the planet in that they can do something to be okay, even though there's idiots running things and all kind of terrible destruction going on. But they can keep happiness going, keep happiness alive. So that's the thing. Okay? Okay. Any other question? Other question? Yeah? No? Okay. So there's a lot of letters here on the Google site. Google.com, well, that's a long thing. You can find it, just go Tibetan mantra letters. That's what I put in Google as a search category. And it came up with this thing about images. The top thing was images for Tibetan mantra letters. And that's what it did. Okay? So back to where were we now? 19. We're on page 19. Oh yeah, so let's do some mantras then. Now there's a thing for the rosary, right? The mantra repeated circles around each deity's seed letter, standing in his or her heart, emanating the host of deities of the mandala, who accomplish being's aims. When I inhale within, the hosts enter again into the heart seed letter, continuing this expansion and contraction activity. And the heart seed letter is hung, always. So you have this hung in the heart, and then you rightly, Owen wants to know what it looks like. Although I have heard lamas say that it's perfectly all right to use the English hum in some calligraphy, in your mind. But actually the Tibetan one is particularly wonderful, so it would be good to learn it. And so, Oma Humu Ho Hang Sha. That just introduces it. Then you say Om Shunyata Jnana Vajra Swabhava Atma Koham. So when you do that, you are, that's the one where I become the soul of the nature of the Vajra, of the intuition of emptiness. And then your rosary disappears under analysis, which means that its intrinsic reality of the rosary disappears, and the rosary is right here, and as a nexus of relativity. And then from voidness, Hung creates the rosary beads. So they're generated by Hung. The light rays of my heart seed, that's the Hung, invite the wisdoms and symbols of all victors in the form of Hung letters. They dissolve into the beads, which become the nature of the signs and marks. So the 108 beads become the 112 signs and marks, 32 plus 80. And there's some extra beads here, so you consider it 112. And now we recite the Lord's Essence Mantra. But I actually had another idea I want to do with you. First, do you know the Dalai Lama's mantra? Does everybody know that? Om Guru Vajradara Vakindu Samati Shasana Dara Samudra Shri Bhaddha Sarvasiddhi Hum Hum. You don't know that one? Okay. I didn't type it here. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that tomorrow. But that is a great one. I don't think it's written here anywhere, because sort of everybody knows it. It's in succession. I see. Yeah, but everybody doesn't have that here. So I will, let's figure out a way of everybody having that, and we will do it. So let's do then Om Hum Hum. Okay, now your rosary is here. It's made, so now let's just recite 1,000 altogether, meditatively recite. And now, okay, now you imagine that this rosary is this Hung-made set of the signs and marks of a great being that are going to be the signs and marks, 32 major and 80 minor signs and marks of your body as a perfect Buddha, as a Kālachakra Buddha. And you're standing in the mandala in the center, and you are both Kālachakra and Vishvamata. You're this two-bodied being. And you are, or as you wish, you could be one part, one half, and then imagine another one, but I think I like to be two-bodied. And you're in great bliss, orgasmic bliss of the undissipating kind. which expands throughout the universe. And then there's the 720 other deities around you in the great bliss mandala, in the mind mandala, the speech mandala, the body mandala, and the activity mandala outside. And all of them, and as you recite the mantra, all of them are reciting the same mantra. And the mantra is on a moon disk or a sun disk, but depending on whether they're mild or fierce type of deity. And at their heart center of their heart chakra. And the hung is and then in the center of their heart, that's right, the name, if it's Amoga Siddhi, it's So whatever is the first syllable of their name is in the center of their heart, and the mantra that you're reciting is on the perimeter of the moon or sun disk. And as you recite the mantra and they recite it, it is echoed by all of them reciting. It's like a chorus of reciting the mantra. And then from these wheels of mantra in their heart chakras and in your heart chakra, the mantra is going round and round like a prayer wheel, like 722 or 21, if you're one being as two, 721 prayer wheels. And that light rays are cascading and exploding and bursting forth from these turning wheels of mantras in all different rainbow colors of coherent laser, like super subtle light that then becomes as concrete as need be wherever it is, in whatever world, whatever country, whatever planet, whatever continent, and blessing everyone and turning everything into the Kālachakra universe. And then coming back and going back into the hung at your heart as you inhale and exhale, so that you don't just totally disperse yourself everywhere. You go out with inconceivable in speed of light, speed of thought, and come back with the breathing. And you can learn to say the mantra when you say many, where you're going Om Humo Hangsham Malavaraya Hampe, and then you can inhale Om Humo Hangsham Malavaraya Hampe, although it'll sound weird, it doesn't. But you're murmuring when you recite the mantra many times. You don't say it out loud unless you're learning it and trying to get used to saying it. You murmur it. So then you're inhaling so that you don't have to break your rhythm. You're inhaling. It can be almost like a whisper, and you don't have to do the whole mantra in one inhale. If you inhale more quickly, you just do part of it, and then you can finish it exhaling. And you get to be able to do it just back and forth easily without interrupting for an inhale. Okay, that's very good to do. Okay? So now we do that, okay? I'll start out slowly, and we can go together, and then each one can murmur at their own pace. And it will take some time. We'll try to do 1,000. If you have the counters and they're properly strung so they stick when you pull them one place, each time you go around once, you pull the counter down. When you get through the 10 counters, that's 1,000, right? Because you consider that you must have made mistakes in 8 out of the 108, so you got 100 there. You count it as 100 that when you go around 108, okay? Okay. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. 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 Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Om Ho Ho Hang Shamalavadaya Hom Be. Mahum ho hang shamalavadaya hom be. Mahum ho hang shamalavadaya hom be. Shamalavadaya hom be. Mahum ho hang shamalavadaya hom be. Mahum ho hang shamalavadaya hom be. Mahum ho hang shamalavadaya hom. Mahum ho hang You finish in your own time. Keep reciting. I'm going to say something. Keep reciting though. So the Om Hum Ho Hung Sha at the beginning. There's a white Om in the brow chakra, a red R in the throat chakra, black home in the heart chakra, yellow hole in the navel chakra, a green hum in the crown chakra, and a blue ksha in the genital chakra. And the brain chakra is a 16-petal white lotus in the brain, and the throat chakra is a 32-petal red lotus in the facing upward in the throat, and the the heart chakra is a black 8-petal lotus facing downwards, and the whole is a 64-petal yellow lotus in the navel chakra, and the hum is a 4-petaled green upward facing lotus on the crown, and the genital chakra is a downward facing 32-petal lotus. And you, as you say, Omo Hum Ho Hong Sha, you're reminded of yourself standing on the top of the planet, on the summit of Mount Meru, and the Malavaraya is the Mount Meru, standing on the giant fields of earth and water and fire and wind and Hong Pe. It's just emphasize, like subtly at Om Hum Ho Hong Shambhala Hum Pe. So it's like you are a giant tower, cracking tower of bliss, with up and down a central channel axis with the right and left channels, also solar and lunar channels, with the 6 lotuses of the various kinds up and down the central channel and the right and left channels. And you're within a body of Kālachakra, male and female, and you are, the Malavaraya is emphasizing the platform which is on top of the entire planet. And so as you say, Om Hum Shambhala Hum Pe, the wheel in your heart is turning and radiating light rays of bliss and energy and encouragement and sustenance and peacefulness and gentleness and joy and bliss to all the beings all throughout the planet, all the non-human beings as well as human beings, and it's radiating up into the desire realm, 6-fold desire realm, heavens, like Tushita and Yama and Trayastrimsa and Nirmanarati and Paranirmishavattavashavartan, and then up through the 16 layers of the form realm with the 4 immeasurables, divided into the 4 immeasurables of immeasurable love, joy, immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and then even into the rousing the poor deities stuck in the prison of isolated formlessness, and rousing them out to come out and join the concert. As you recite Om Hum Hum Samaraya Hambe, Om Hum Samaraya Hambe, and you are creating the inner peace to create the world peace. Om Hum Hum Samaraya Hambe, 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 Om Hum Hum Samaraya Hambe. Mahum Moham Samarayam Peo 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 Mahum 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 Samarayam Peo Om Hum Ho Hong Samaraya Hambe, Om Hum Samaraya Hambe, Om 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 Samaraya Hambe, As you, of course, once you have such a visualization, you don't have to think about it again and again. You just like set it up kind of, and then you don't think anything, and your mind just goes to the stream of Om Mahamayambe 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 Mahamayambe, and doing one-pointedness on the basis of a thread of speech is a very useful thing because it unifies the speech energy and the mind energy down a single thread. Om Ho Ho Hong Shambhala Vadaya Hom Pe. I think everybody must have hit 1,000 by now. Although you look so happy, I hate to interrupt you. You can stop it. You can keep going if you like. It's actually pleasant. Very pleasant.
I'm in the remedial mantra.
To focus on that what?
I'm in the remedial section. I think I got through 400.
All right. Om Ho Ho Hong Shambhala Vadaya Hom Pe. Om Ho Shambhala You will get, if you do it, if you work on it and you do it, you can get where you can do a whole rosary on one breath. It's very nice. It has a nice flow to it. Okay, so very good. So we did that, and then what happens is when they do it here, then Ram Rim Herm Hum Hum Ra Swaha. Okay, we'll do 100 of those. And we'll do 100 each of now the following main ones, okay? So Om Ram Hrim Herm Hum Hum Ra Swaha. 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 Om Ram Hrim Herm Hum Ra Swaha. Om Ram Hrim Herm Hum Ra Swaha. Okay, go ahead, let's do it together, like, come on. Om Ram Hrim Herm Ra Swaha. 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 Om Ram Hrim Ra Swaha. Om Ram Him Hum. You have to do a lot separately so you really get it. Then when you go fast, you won't lose it. Om Ram Him Herm Ra Swaha. Om Ram Him Hum 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 Ra Swaha. It's very difficult for a Japanese to speak. Om Ram Him Hum Ra Swaha. 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 Om Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem Shri Shakala Hum Pem Shri Kālachakra 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 Hum Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem 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 Om Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem 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 Shri Kālachakra Hum Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem 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 Vishvamata 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 Hum Pem Om Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem 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 Om Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem Om Shri Kālachakra Hum Pem Om Vishvamata Hum Pem 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 100 of each of these. Om Vishvamata Hum Pem 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 Vishvamata Hum Vishvamata Hum Pem 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 Vishvamata Hum Vishvamata Hum Pem 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 Vishvamata Hum 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 Dana Paramita Hum Bim 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 Dana Paramita Dana Paramita Hum Bim 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 Dana Paramita Hum Dana Paramita Hum Bim 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 Dana Paramita Hum Dana Paramita Hum Bim 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 Dana Paramita Hum Dana Paramita Hum Bim Shila 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 Paramita Hum Shila Paramita Hum Bim 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 Paramita Hum Bim Shila 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 Paramita Hum Shila Paramita Hum Bim 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 Shanti 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 Paramita Hum Shanti Paramita Hum Bim 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 Shanti Paramita Hum Shanti Paramita Hum Bim 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 Shanti Paramita Shanti Baram de Home, Bim 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 Shanti Shanti Baram de Home, Be 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 Shanti Baram de Home, Shanti Baram de Home, Be Virya Paramita Hum, Bim 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 Virya Paramita Hum, Om Bevira Paramita Hum, 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 Vira Paramita Hum, Bevira 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 Bevira Paramita Hum, 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 Baby Parmita home, 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 baby Parmita home. Baby Parmita home, 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 Om Dhyana Parmita home, Bim 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 Dhyana Parmita home. Dhyana Paramita Hum, Be 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 Jana Baram the home, 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 Bim 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 Jana Baram Jana Baram the home, Bim 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 Branya 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 Baram the home, Branya Baram the home, Bim 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 Branya Baram the home. Paramita Hum, Bem Branya 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 Paramita Hum. Branya Paramita Hum, Be 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 Branya Paramita Hum. Branya Paramita Hum, Be 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 Umubaya 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 Paramita Hum, Be Bye Paramita Hum, Be Umubaya 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 Paramita Hum. Baya Paramita Hum, Be Mubaya 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 Paramita Hum. Mumbai Paramita Hum, Be 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 Mumbai Paramita Hum. Umubaya Paramita Hum, Be Pranidhana 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 Paramita Hum. Pranidhana Paramita Hum, Be 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 Pranidhana Paramita Hum, Pranidhana Paramita Hum, Be 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 Pranidhana Paramita Hum. Pranidhana Paramita Hum, Be 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 Pranidhana Paramita Hum. Pranidhana Paramita Hum, Be Bala 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 bala me home, 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 bala bala me home. Bala bala me home, 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 bala bala me home. Be bala bala me home, 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 be Jnana Paramita Hum, Bim 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 Jnana Paramita Hum, Jnana Paramita Hum, Bim Jnana Paramita Hum, Bim Jnana Paramita Hum, Bim Paramita hum, be jana 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 paramita hum. Jana paramita hum, be 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 jana paramita hum, be. That's the 10 Shaktis. Om Akshobhya Hum, Be 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 Om Akshobhya Hum. Yakshobhya Hum, Be Om Yakshobhya Hum, Be Om Akshobhya 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 Hum, Akshobhya Hum, Be Om 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 Akshobhya Hum. Akshobhya Hum, Be Om 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 Bodhisattva Hum, Be Om Akshobhya 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 Hum. Bodhisattva Hum, Akshobhya Hum, Be Om 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 Akshobhya Hum, Be Bodhisattva Hum, Be Om 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 Bodhisattva Hum, Bodhisattva Hum, Be Om 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 Bodhisattva Hum, Be Bodhisattva Hum, Be Om 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 Bodhisattva Moga City Home Pe Om Rata Sambhava 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 Home Om Radha Sambhava Hum Pe Om Amidava 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 Hum Amidava Hum Pe Om 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 Amidava Hum Pe Virojana hum beam 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 virojana hum be varojana 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 hum be Virojana hum be lojana 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 lojana hum be 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 lojana hum Lojana home, 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 lojana home. Lojana home, 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 lojana home. Lojana home, 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 lojana Lojana home, 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 mama ke home, mama ke home, mama ke home, mama ke home. Mama get home, 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 mama go home, mama get 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 home. Mama get home, 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 mama get home. Mama get home, 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 mama get home. Oh mama get home, 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 mama get Mama get home, 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 Om mama ke home, bill mama ke home, bill mama ke home, bill bandara 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 home. Bandara home, 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 bandara home bandara humbe, bandara humbe. Bandara humbe, 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 bandara humbe. Badara humbe, 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 badara humbe. Bandara hum be dara hum be dara hum be dara hum be dara. Okay, now that all the bodhisattvas, we can do 10 each. Om 100 each. Om Vajradadishwari Om Bam 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 Vajradadishwari Om Vajradadishwari Om Bam Vajradadishwari Om Bam Vajapani 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 hum bim kagarba 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 hum bim Shidigarba 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 hum bim Lokeshvara 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 Lokeshvara hum bim 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 Savanivarna Viscambini 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 hum bim Sarvanivarana 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 Viscambini hum bim Samantha Badra 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 hum Samantha Badra hum bim Samantha Badra hum bim Samantha Badra hum bim Samantha Badra hum bim Ganda Vajra 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 hum Om Pranyantaka Hum Be, 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 Om Padmantaka 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 Hum Be, Om Yamantaka 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 Hum Om Adivirya Hum Be, Om Adivirya Hum Be, Om Adinila 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 Hum Be. Or 3 times each. Om Baja Chachiga Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Chachiga Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Chachiga Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Varahi Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Varahi Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Varahi Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Maheshwari Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Maheshwari Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Maheshwari Hum Hum Pe, Om Bajendri 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 Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Brahmani Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Brahmani Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Brahmani Hum Hum Pe, Om Baja Mahalakshmi Hum Be, Om Baja Mahalakshmi Hum Be, Om Baja Mahalakshmi Hum Be, Om Baja Kalmaryai Hum Be, Om Baja Kalmaryai Hum Be, Om Baja Kalmaryai Hum Be, Om Baja Vaishni Hum Be, Om Baja Vaishni Hum Be, Om Baja Vaishni Hum Be. Oh, that's the speech of the 8 central ladies of the 8 speech mandala lotuses, then the 12 deities of the body mandala. Om Bhaja Vishnu Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vishnu Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vishnu Hum Be, Om Bhaja Nartya Hum Be, Om Bhaja Nartya Hum Be, Om Bhaja Nartya Hum Be, Om Bhaja Agni Hum Be, Om Bhaja Agni Hum Be, Om Bhaja Agni Hum Be, Om Bhaja Odadi Hum Be, Om Bhaja Odadi Hum Be, Om Bhaja Odadi Hum Be, Om Bhajendra Hum Be, Om Bhajendra Hum Be, Om Bhajendra Hum Be, Om Bhajeshwari Hum Be, Om Bhajeshwara Hum Be, Om Bhajeshwara Hum Be, Om Bhaja Brahma Hum Be, Om Bhaja Brahma Hum Be, Om Bhaja Brahma Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vinayaka Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vinayaka Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vinayaka Hum Be, Om Bhaja Kartika Hum Be, Om Bhaja Kartika Hum Be, Om Bhaja Kartika Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vayu Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vayu Hum Be, Om Bhaja Vayu Hum Be, Om Bhaja Yama Hum Be, Om Bhaja Yama Hum Be, Om Bhaja Yama Hum Be, Om Bhaja Yaksa Hum Be, Om Bhaja Yaksa Hum Be, Om Bhaja Yaksa Hum Be, Om Bharani Hum Be, Om Bharani Hum Be, Om Bharani Hum Be, Om Bhayavi Hum Be, Om Bhayavi Hum Be, Om Bhayavi Hum Be, Om Yamani Hum Be, Om Yamani Hum Be, Om Yamani Hum Be, Om Yakshini Hum Be, Om Yakshini Hum Be, Om Yakshini Hum Be, Om Mahabala Hum Be, Om Mahabala Hum Be, Om Mahabala Hum Be, Om Ajala Hum Be, Om Ajala Hum Be, Om Ajala Hum Be, Om Takiraja Hum Be, Om Takiraja Hum Be, Om Takiraja Hum Be, Om Niladanda Hum Be, Om Niladanda Hum Be, Om Niladanda Hum Be, Om Sumbaraja Hum Be, Om Sumbaraja Hum Be, Om Sumbaraja Hum Be, Om Radakshi Hum Be, Om Radakshi Hum Be, Om Radakshi Hum Be, Om Vajrasangali Hum Be, Om Vajrasangali Hum Be, Om Vajrasangali Hum Be, Om Junda Hum Be, Om Junda Hum Be, Om Junda Hum Be, Om Junda Hum Be, Om Burkude, Om Burkude Hum Be, Om Burkude Hum Be, Om Burkude Hum Be, Om Burkude Hum Be, Om Marichi Hum Be, Om Marichi Hum Be, Om Marichi Hum Be, Om Bhajajaya Hum Be, Om Bhajajaya Hum Be, Om Bhajajaya Hum Be, Om Bhajavijaya Hum Be, Om Bhajavijaya Hum Be, Om Bhajavijaya Hum. These are the Nagas. Baja Badma hum bim, Baja Badma hum bim, Baja Badma hum bim, Baja Karkuta hum bim, Baja Karkuta hum bim, Baja Karkuta hum bim, Baja Vasuki hum bim, Baja Vasuki hum bim, Baja Vasuki hum bim, Baja Shankabala hum bim, Baja Shankabala hum bim, Baja Shankabala hum bim, Baja Ananda hum bim, Baja Ananda hum bim, Baja Ananda hum bim, Baja Kulika hum bim, Baja Kulika hum bim, Baja Kulika hum bim, Baja Taksika hum bim, Baja Taksika hum bim, Baja Taksika hum bim, Baja Mahapadma hum bim, Baja Mahapadma hum bim, Baja Mahapadma hum bim, Shvanasya hum bim, Shvanasya hum bim, Shvanasya hum bim, Shukarasya hum bim, Shukarasya hum bim, Shukarasya hum Vyagrasya hum bim, Vyagrasya hum bim, Vyagrasya hum bim, Jamagasya hum bim, Jamagasya hum bim, Jamagasya hum Gardasya hum bim, Gardasya hum bim, Gardasya hum bim, Ulukasya hum bim, Ulukasya hum bim, Ulukasya hum bim, Gudrasya hum bim, Gudrasya hum bim, Gudrasya hum bim, Kakasya hum bim, Kakasya hum bim, Kakasya hum bim. Om Shri Kālachakra Saparivara Argam Pājam Prokshanam Anjamanam Gandham Bhuvam Duvam Alokin Navidyam Shabdam Pratichan Namaha. Then you take your inner offering. But I think you take a break now. There you go. No, this is an intensive. That's meditating. And when you do that, then you see the mind mandala is what they mainly do because it's just too many things. But it actually would be great to do all three. And you think of the deity, and that deity especially resonates with you because you're the central Kālachakra. So when you're doing akshobhya, you're seeing akshobhya. Well, akshobhya is actually merged with you. When you do Amoga Siddhi, you're seeing Amoga Siddhi and you're especially resonating, and he's saying Om Akshobhya, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum Be, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum Be, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum Be. But all of them are reciting all the mantras all the time with you. And you can get very one-pointed on the main mantra. And if you're doing the familiarization retreat, I hope it's only 100,000 of the Om Hum Hum Shambhala Varaya Hum Pe. I hope. Could be something like 400,000 or 700,000 or 1 million. 1 million would be really good. And then the other main root mantras, 10,000 each. And then the mind mandala deities, 10,000 each. And then the bodhisattvas, 1,000. And then there's body and speech deities, 1,000. But unfortunately, I think it's 10,000 all of them. I mean, you know, as much as you do. And the worst of all is that these are when you're resting from visualizing, from holding in your mind the whole mandala, where what you want to reach is the point where you can hold the entire mandala from being within it, but you know, then you're playing with being the Kālachakra Father Mother, Kālachakra Vishvamata, but then you're also all the buildings, all three buildings, and also the cemetery, the smashanas outside, and all the other deities. So you're sort of encompassing all of it, and you can hold that stably. And then you can project that into its tiny drop, or like the size of a sesame seed, the whole total mandala with all its details in a tiny, tiny sort of microscopic dimension. And you can hold that stably for a while. They usually say some horrendous thing like hours, but that's too much. Then you're ready for the subtle yoga and so on. But they overdo that, they always do. And also, there's a thing where it feels like it comes from somewhere else. If you have the affinity and the motivation to really do it, at a certain point, you know, you're training to see this and remember that and all these things. Then suddenly they seem to just be there. But that only comes from the continuous, constant repetition. Although different people will have different times of that. Anyway, take a break. Let's take a break. It's 4:20. We'll go on for a while. We'll look at the inner offering thing.
How long are we breaking for?
What's that?
How long are we breaking?
Just to 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10, 15. To 4:30, 4:35.
Started sounding like Shambhala when it was
Yes,
really fast.
that the mind does all sorts of things. When you get going near one pointed of the mantra, you hear other things in the mantra. Sure,
Yeah.
but you don't just distract
Don't
that.
pay attention to that. That's,
No. It might be a good resonance. It might not. You don't freak out about it.
Okay,
You
great.
take it easy about it.
Great. Yeah, 'cause- and sometimes it's just like spontaneously coming out. You get it.
And then you notice once you really get it going for the one mantra a long time, then your mind completely can wander. And yet the mantra can keep going uninterrupted. It's like your tongue and your mind, it gets a channel for it, and then you can be distracted. So then it's the thing of putting the mind one pointed on the mantra. And that's really great because you can. One good place to distract it is thinking of the deity of the particular mantra. And like for example, if you're doing but then you think of you can go run through your arms and hands and what you have in the hands and arms. And why don't you ask that again when when people come back? How you doing?
Good.
What?
I think I mentioned to you briefly when I was in California,
Yeah.
I dropped a little bit of LSD
Oh, really?
and did this meditation.
And what?
I did the Guru Yoga
Oh, good.
for like 4 hours,
Oh,
and it was during the mantras of the different, the 10 chakras,
yes.
that all of a sudden I felt viscerally all the arms,
Oh,
feel the 4 faces. I like,
oh, great.
and it was like what you said. It was like it just kind of
Right.
suddenly I
Well, you had a little help there.
had a lot of help.
Well, see, I think the ancient siddhas in India did use that. They didn't have it in Tibet, but I think in India they had certain things, not necessarily exactly, lysergic that, but they had like datura and and other things, mushrooms, things like that. I think they're called the 18 special elixirs of the siddhas, and nobody's really, that I know, investigated them, and chemically or otherwise. But I'm sure I think that kind of thing is very helpful for an advanced yogi. Yeah. But this can't be brought out in public yet right now. But eventually, it's actually coming around to where people are starting to research again, and the whole Nixon Bush insanity of the war on the whatever, and the conflating of psychedelics with opiates and things. That's a little bit coming to an end, and of course they're freaking out, and like that disgusting Attorney General wants to put it all back in the box, whatever his name, Sessions. Yeah.
I also had this clear sense that it was reaching. It's very hard to describe in words, but it was like Kālachakra
used. And that is done in that extremist ideology.
Right.
But then there's like a Muslim Kālachakra kind of idea, like then Sufis become safe
Right.
for the Muslims, Sufis are, they always kill their Sufis, that's why Sufis hide,
And they're kind of in there, just in the colors in the Kālachakra. It's like the 4 root races.
Yeah, 4 races.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important.
Kind of resonant with that.
Yeah.
It's very all-inclusive.
Mm-hmm. Black, red, white, and yellow, yes.
It's so awesome, the 4-directional scene.
Yeah. Alex, great. Too bad Alex didn't go. I don't know if Alex, but Alex probably had a Kālachakra in New York, maybe.
I would imagine he was at one of them.
He might have. Or maybe Washington. I would think so. He got so busy in his own thing, but I think he might have. Because he could really do something. If he knew this imagery, it's so exquisite. I would love to see him. These are all of the deities, That's how they look. See, white with the red consort.
Oh yeah, what book is that?
What?
What book is this?
This is a book published by my friend, what's his name, the Italian guy. I can't remember his name now. I can't remember the names just now. His name, it's Enrico Del Vico, that's it, Enrico. He's an old friend of mine. He used to work in the Italian mint with the engravers, and he knew all the engravers. So he was good at printing things, and then he had a relationship with the Namgyal monastery, and they made this.
It would be helpful to have little cutouts.
See, this is Vajra Karkota this is the Naga king. In his name is Karkota, but they always put Vajra to mean that he's in the mandala. So Vajra Karkota, you see the snakes in his head?
Yeah.
And then he's in union with Chijiangdongma, with the jackal-headed goddess. Chijiangdongma. So that's a Naga in semi-human form. And these are all the Naga kings. Vajra Padma with the Garuda-headed yogini, and tiger face partner, Vajra Vasuki, and Kulika is another. This could be improved scholastically, but anyway, Kulika, he's also a Naga king, and Shankapala, that's Shankapala. We said his mantra.
Does he go through all 720 of them?
What?
Does he go through all 700?
Well, quite a few, yeah. Some are like this, These are the days of the month. And this is the month of the second month, water buffalo. They're on a Mahe. And it's the month, don't they give they don't even give the name of the month? I forget the name of the month. It's, I forgot the name of it. Nagpa, maybe Nagpa, that one. Should have the name of the month in Sanskrit. Ashada, they have the Palguna, Vaishakha, they have like that. So those are the goddesses of that month. See, these are the 28 days, and then the male deity and female consort. That's probably Kamariai, or Yama. That's a red Yama. And he's embracing Yamani, Mrs. Yama.
It'd be cool. It'd be helpful to have like little cards that you could place around yourself.
Yes.
On the floor.
Well, they were going to do that. They might have done that. I don't have a set of that, but we should. But what I'm going to do for the longer retreat, if we do one, I think I'll take photos of them. Maybe just with the phone is good enough, and then put them on a slide thing, and then have something that works. It used to work. That's not the one that used to work, though. Where did he go?
That's the newer
That's a
one.
crappy one. There's a better one. I know there's a better one.
It's over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We tried. We couldn't get it to work. But I don't have these actually. I realized myself I never did photograph these, which I should do just to use for the home lectures. I couldn't publish them with copyright thing. Very Fazzi, the Italian, but I could at least use them for. We could use them for retreats. These are the different month deities. Yeah, I think they have pretty much every deity. That's another month deity. 360 deities of the days in the body mandala. And this is the diagram of the painting on the wall of the temple, Tekchen Chuling in Dharamsala, which they did. And probably has the speech mandala. And here the speech mandala. And this is where our Pema, I don't think you ever knew him, but our Pema, who was getting PhD at Columbia, who was one of the best artists, and he was the one who created this program for them to do. But then, and I think they modified it a little bit, but he was mad because they think this is a female, but it's not, it's a male. The big one is the female. Speech mandala. You see, but you see the little suggestion of a breast?
Oh yeah.
Because they think they can't imagine a male being the little one like that. You know, like, so they put a little breast. That's Ganesha, not Mrs. Ganesha. And he's Shunuma, Dongduk, the six-faced female Kumara. That's the war god, but the female form. Sogda, Sogda, that's Ganesha. That's the male Ganesha, but he's the little. You see, he's the little Ganesha. And they're in union like that, but he's little and she's big. But then they put he was so mad they went and threw the breast on the male. But they didn't see there. That's supposed to be a male. That's Sangha, that's Brahma embracing Mrs. Vishnu in the speech, the center of the speech lotus, you see. And these are all the Vedic speech, like Saraswati and all those Vedic goddesses. My mind is all too scattered to remember names just now. And that's Vajrapani in union with Vajradadishwari. No, I'm sorry, Vajrabda Vajra. So that is your hearing sense in union with the sound objects. She's a Shabda Vajra. And see, that's a proper breast for her, you see, embracing him, because she's female. And that's a Samantha Bandra.
How do things like Mo and also the astrology that come from Kālachakra, where do they get it from?
Well, Mo doesn't necessarily. There's different versions of Mo everywhere.
Okay.
So, but astronomy, yes, because see, Kālachakra is the one thing that. See, they did it here too wrongly. You see, this is Lojana, and in the west, and she is yellow, so that's her, and he's the little guy, but they stuck a breast in there because they couldn't imagine it was a male. There's another one where he's the big black guy, or they make him gray, and she's a little yellow consort. But in the West, it's like that, though. The one in the corner is a big female with a little male, and this is a big male with a little female.
It's a Schwarzenegger peck.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They're all multiracial, you see, is the idea. The Kālachakra is a time when there's no more racism. And the Kālachakra has 4 races on his body, black, red, yellow, and white, that we know of. Then there's a little green and blue. So it must be the Nagas or something, porpoises.
Reptilians.
These are the Shaktis. And they are like that. They're females. And these are the ones in the corners. And Marichi, Pradyota, etc. And Pita Dipta. Yeah. And then that's Vajra. That's Vajravega. This is Vajravega. That's Vajravega. So that's the fierce Kālachakra. And you see he has one extra yellow hand and one extra black hand. And he's looking very ferocious. He has a demonic face. And he's the very scary one. But otherwise, his implements are all the same. And he has no consort because he's busy attacking people who are behaving badly. And actually, the monks, he's supposed to have a hard-on.
Right.
But they didn't put that. So no,
He was
Pema must have
camera shy.
What?
He was camera shy for the painter.
No. He's happy. And that's a peaceful Kālachakra with the yum. That's the Vajravega, the diamond force. And the Shaktis, but I think they got something messed up about the Shaktis. I have to figure this out. Yeah, there's the Buddha Shakyamuni in the stupa. This is the idea of the Amaravati stupa. And the Shaktis are around, 8 of them. And there he is with his thing, there he is as Kālachakra in the stupa, but he is Shakyamuni. So that shows now and Vajravega is down there, you see, ready to go out and subdue any evildoers. And those are the Shaktis. 6, 7, 8, 8 Shaktis. The outside Shaktis. And there are 3 Shaktis. There are 2 Shaktis inside there. I'm very curious about one thing I wanted to see. Yeah, that's Duma. Oh, that makes more sense. I was misremembering. See, they're holding the yak tail. The ones in the corners are holding the yak tail fans. And the ones in the cardinal directions are holding various offering things. But to remember all of them is quite difficult. I never memorized what they hold. But then one thing I noticed, that one Tibetan Lama who was considered the lineage holder of this, who transmitted to the Lama, I translated for him once in Bodh Gaya.
The Sirkon?
Kirti Rinpoche, his name. And he had forgotten the multicolored nature of the couples. He was just saying, they're yellow, and they're this, and they're that. And so I was like, Rinpoche, excuse me, but isn't the consort another? Because you get, it's so complicated to remember it all. He was elderly. That's how they look. And I like the Nagas, especially. Where's the Nagas? They're later. These are the central deities of the month. And this is Agni himself, and he is in union with Varuni, the female ocean goddess. Varuna is the ocean goddess. Varuni is the Mrs. Varuna. So she's in union with Agni. And so the male is the main one in the body mandala. They're in the center of. That's Kumara, the war god, in union with Shanmukhi. No, he's Shanmukhi, and he's in union with Lakshmi. And that's Varuna in union with who's he in union with? I forgot. Varahi. So where's the Nagas? I like them. There's the Nagas. And they're in union with these animal-headed goddesses. Tiger, vulture, pig-headed, owl-headed. The goddesses have the different animal heads. But the Nagas have the snakes up in the crown like that. Otherwise, they're very handsome. They're not that snaky, except for the snakes on their head. That's a nice one, big Naga. Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya are 2 of them. These are all Naga kings, but they're completely into the mandala. Then the outer cemeteries, these are all the deities in the cemeteries, 88 of them. And some of them are days of the solar things, stars, constellations, signs, the zodiac signs, this sort of thing.
So they appear in this mandala, they appear as the...
They're the letters on the outside there, yeah. In the 8 cemeteries, 8 smashanas, charnel grounds. There she is with the tiger face. These are the offering goddesses, Icha and Praticha. She's a Bahukali Icha. She's an Icha, desire for much debate. Much argument. Bahukalaha Icha. She likes to debate. There's a tiger face.
Bob, I have a question. Bob?
Yes.
I would like to know if this tiger lady, for example, is she where she is? And is she in the middle?
Oh, that particular Icha?
Yes.
Well, the Ichas are not really located here, but they are on this. I'm not sure. Maybe those syllables are representing the Ichas and the Pratichas. So this is outside the body mandala on a ledge, like a ledge outside the body mandala, and I think that's where the Pratichas are. And I think there's a similar ledge here, but there's no notation. I think that's where the Ichas are. So they're just kind of, they're just seeing to everybody's pleasure. That's what that means, Icha. They're making everybody happy. And I don't think, this is the speech model, right? So there are some letters, but they're not clear in this particular version, but usually you see letters along that white thing. And here's the letters out in the body mandala. So that's where they're located.
Does it mean when you come more to the middle that these goddesses are more highly represented, or does it?
Yes. The Buddhas are here, but they're all kind of Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. They're all Kālachakra actually, but they're just representing. Taking a form to represent different elements of life, because the whole point is to convert each element of life into something fantastic. Like one of the fierce deities is like the nose, the mouth, the organs of interacting with the environment. The anus, the urethra. Those are deities. So there's nothing that's impure or not divine, in other words. And so the mandala takes all the elements of life and reaches out and makes them into something divine. And there was another thing I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was. And the more one learns about that, then the more, and for example, the longer form of creating yourself as a Kālachakra, like your fingers, each one is like 17 syllables, so your whole body is written. Then then there's a body mandala thing for the completion stage, or perfection stage, where these lotuses are all in your navel. The speech mandala thing, the 64 goddesses are all in the navel. And then these month ones, which is the body mandala ones, where is that? This kind, these are the lunar 30-day month, 28 out here and 2 in the middle. And they're at each of the 6 joints, in your arms and elbows, and I guess they must be repeated for the multi-arms. I hadn't thought of that, but they're repeated, or you might be just a 2-armed Kālachakra. And so you have 6 months at these joints, shoulder, elbow, and wrist, and then hip, knee, and ankle. So the 12 months are there, and so everything gets embedded in the body. From the building, the palaces. It's so sophisticated and elaborate. It really is. But it's not, if one just gets familiar with it, and bit by bit, these represent the winds actually, but they're standing around you in this 8 petals in the center of the mandala. And they're right in, this is the great bliss area, as that green part in the middle there. And then it looks sort of like going in like that, but it isn't. This is above actually. So that's the little penthouse there. And then that row there where there's 4 pillars per thing, that's where the Buddhas are. The 8 Buddhas and female Buddhas. Then out here is where all those Bodhisattvas are, having to do with the sense organs. This is the mind mandala building. And when you do the retreat, you just use that building, actually. You kind of ignore the outer ones. The first retreat. Of course, the ultimate thing would be to do all of them. This is much more beautiful picture than that one. More nicely done. The guy who did this was an Italian guy who worked in the mint in Rome, and he was good at printing, they make people's dollar bills and postage stamps and things. The Italians are very famous for that. All the African countries have their money made in Italy.
Is this monastery still around? Is it safe?
What's that?
Is this monastery still?
Oh, this one?
Safe?
Oh, yeah, this is in Dharamsala. This is the Namgyal Monastery.
Could we take questions from people's seats? We're losing the
What's
live
that?
stream. Can we have people ask questions from their seats? The study groups watching
Who's
the back.
asking a question?
The whole group here.
Oh.
Who are virtually
What question?
Well, I know, but you guys keep on asking questions, and yeah.
And these are all kind of
No,
similar.
I'm
but
suggesting getting
something,
into your seats, that way we can pass
your
the
question,
mic.
your question, Owen, is a good one. They didn't make a set of the mantra letters in big that you could then visualize and remember. That was delinquent of them. That's very good, Owen. There's Yama.
Making a PowerPoint document.
That's Yama.
With,
Buffalo head.
I've been thinking about just now about making a PowerPoint document of this tantra with little pictures of.
What's that?
Thanks, Justin. Now I've been thinking about making just a simple PowerPoint document with pictures of the letters plus pictures of the gods,
that's good.
goddesses, but also
Please
like
go
of the
ahead.
tools and the weapons, so you can
Sure,
instantly
sure,
get a little
Do that.
picture
Do
of
that.
it.
I think they have a bunch of weapons here, I think. What?
Yes. And perhaps with one of Bob's translations underneath the mantras, right? So you can read it and get a intellectual and visual, symbol each time. Yeah. Yes.
What's that?
Just for the record, Alex talks about them going to the 1991 Kālachakra. He attended the 1991 Kālachakra.
Who did?
Alex.
Who?
Alex Gray.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, good. Yeah, that was in 1991. Yeah, that was the New York one. I somehow remembered he had been there.
We were there too.
Yes. Here's some. Oh, these are lucky signs, auspicious substances. These are auspicious jewels. I don't think they have all the hand implements.
So this
They
book
should
that
have.
Bob is referencing was done by the Namgyal Monastery, which is the monastery that specializes in the Kālachakra practice.
Yeah.
So they're right. It's published by that monastery, Namgyal. The book that has all the images. So they're the most active Kālachakra practitioners.
What's that?
They're the most active Kālachakra practitioners, right? The monks of Namgyal.
Yes, yes. Well, because Dalai Lama has specially trained them. That's become their special thing, because he has them up all day and night and all for years, used to, and it was really great in Bodh Gaya, in the place where he was doing the self-initiation. I think I was much less worried about him being overstraining by doing the initiation, because they were carrying the chant, and he was just visualizing. So he wasn't putting a lot of verbal energy out in that whole long, and that's a 120-page thing. He wasn't putting a whole huge bunch of verbal energy out. He was letting them do that, and he was just visualizing and being in the space and everything. And that's much easier for him, and I was really pleased about that. And then he did his teaching, right, when he taught, they unfortunately had that cold, he got a cold. Because everybody's supposed to get a cold there. We were so lucky in that cushy tent out of the dust. We were really lucky. We had Michelle teaching yoga, and it was really cushy and nice.
Thank you, Bob, for everything.
Dr. Nida was going to come. He had a ticket and everything. But then he was warned from Amdo that if he went, the Chinese would make note of it, and he would lose his passport. So he then hung back. Okay. So, any other question? now there's a sequence where you offer the inner offerings after you finish. You make a set of the outer offerings, and this is an easy set of outer offerings, small ones. Not the long thing with that we've had before. And then you take up your inner offering cup, where you keep some tea or something. I have some stuff here, and then you hold it up like this as you recite these offerings, and you imagine what Richard was telling us about the legend about stirring the ocean to get the elixir. So the Mount Meru is your fingertip, and the thumb represents the ocean, and you pick up the drops, and you flick drops like that. But they sort of do it symbolically, because if you have tea, then you get all tea in your hair. So they don't do it. And then after you finish the mantras, you then, from my left thumb, sum, the thumb becomes Mount Meru, that's right, and the ring finger is kshum, an ocean, and you take the essence of mead from within it. And the hums on the yes tongue become one-pronged Vajra straws of light. So then you think that Buddha Kālachakra and all of the lineage of the kings of Shambhala up to the current one today, whose name is Anuruddha, according to them, if their count is the true one. And then the beginning of the people, if you go down this list, you go Om to Prime Buddha Kālachakra Namaha, Om to King Suchandra Namaha, Om Devendra Namaha, Om Teji Namaha. Those are kings of Shambhala. Om Somadatta Namaha, Om Sureshwara Namaha, Om Vishvamurti Namaha, Om to Sureshana Namaha, Om to Manju. And each time you flick one drop of this elixir from your inner offering. And Pundarika Namaha, and Bhadra Namaha, Vijaya Namaha, Sumitra Namaha, Raktapani Namaha, Vishnu Gupta Namaha, Arka Kirti Namaha, Subhadra Namaha, Samudra Vijaya Namaha, Aja Namaha, Suryapada Namaha, Vishwarupa Namaha, Shashiprabha Namaha, Anantapada Namaha, Mahipala Namaha, Sripala Namaha, then Sripala Namaha. And that ends at the time in the 18th century, at the time of 7th Dalai Lama, who wrote that, who wrote this version. So it ends with Sripala. There are two more kings, I think, since then. We're now in the era of King Anuruddha, supposedly. And then you start the human people. The one who first got to Shambhala and brought back is Om to Mahākālachakra Pada, and then Jinaputra Nalendrapada, and then Kashmiri Somanatha. Somanatha was a big one. And then the contemplative Ratnarakshita, and then Drotan Namlatsek, then Yumo Mityu Dorje, then Dharmeshwara, then Namka then Sermochi Namka Gyansen, then Jamso Sherab Öser, then Lama Chuku Öser, then Kumban Tuchi Zundu, and Pag Yondan Gyatso, Kunjam Bhutan Kachinama, then Bhutan Rinpoche, very great famous Lama, who was the grand teacher of Tsongkhapa, and Lama Chuchi Pel, who was in between Bhuta and Tsongkhapa, and then eight-powered Lord, great Tsongkhapa, Namaha, to the Prime Buddha, then you go back, Prime Buddha Kālachakra Namaha, then again Suchanda Dejis, then back to the kings of Shambhala. I don't know why I go back to them, but you redo them. And then it's a different lineage. And then the first, then you, again, Silu Pandita, that's right. Manjugosha Nirmanaha. After Pundarika, you go Manjugosha Nirmanaha, and the emanation of Manjushri. Then Silu Pandita, who may be Tilopa. People are not sure. It's Chilopa or Tsilupa. Om to Tsilu Pandita Namaha. Then Mahākālachakra Pada Namaha. Then Jinaputra Nalendrapada. Those are the same people. Then it goes to Manju Kirti, Samanta Shri, and then Rachurap, Raisi Senke, and Rabu and Senke, the three generations of the Ra Lotsawa, who were great Yamantaka yogis and Kālachakra yogis. There's a biography of Ra Lotsawa, Rachurap, very ferocious. Desungalo Namaha, Shera Senge Namaha, Doji Jansen Namaha, Kunchen Bhutan Kachin Namaha, Chuchi Bel Sampo, then back to Tsongkhapa. Then you come down in the Dalai Lama's Chuji Sonam Gyaltsen, Namaha. Kunchen Shera Pel Shambhala Namaha. Ketu Gela Pel Shambhala is a disciple of Shambhala. Baso Chuchi Jensen Namaha. Ketu Yondan Yatsola Namaha. Losan Evamba Namaha. Chuje Pel Jor Jatso Namaha. Gomde Namka Gensen Namaha. Pension Losan Chuji Re Galsen Namaha. Loben Gendun Duntup Namaha. Loben Damsi Doji Namaha. Doji Zimba Kunchen Gensen Namaha. Dukorwa. Losan Rigjo Namaha. Dukorwa. Punso Jamba Namaha. Ngawan Choden Namaha. Losan Kelsan Gyatso Namaha. That's the seventh Dalai Lama. Then Jetsun Losan Penden Yishi. Someone added after that Penden Yishi. That's one of the pension lamas. And Losan Kelsan Tudden Jigme Gyatso Namaha. Then Doji Chang Yishi Jensen Namaha. Then Losan Jambe Gyatso Namaha. That's another one of the Dalai Lamas. Then Trichen Jamba Tsujin Namaha. Trichen, these are heads of the Gelugpas. Trichen Losan Kenabonsu Namaha. Yongzen Losan Tsujin Jamba Gyatso Namaha. Serkong Awan Tsujin Denden Namaha. Awan Tuchi Wongchuk Namaha. My kind root Lama Yongzin Doji Chang Tutte Lung Do Namjia Tinle Pesambo Namaha. This is Dalai Lama added these because that's his teacher. Tutte Lung Do Namjia Tinle Pesambo Namaha. Ngawan Losan Tenzin Gyatso, that's the Dalai Lama. To my kind root Lama Omniscient Holy, I think I wrote that in. To my kind root Lama Omniscient Holy Ngawan Losan Tenzin Gyatso, Pel Tampo Namaha. To all the holy lamas, fathers and sons with their lineages, Namaha. And then you do but then there's a lot of Namahas here. Buddha, it's like that, Tasyaya Nama, same kind of thing. So let's read that together now from here. Because it's hard for you to read the Tibetan, I should put more phonetic. So here now. Buddhaya Namaha. Okay, let's go. Dharmaya Namaha. Then imagine you're flicking from your inner offering, which itself is a symbol of yourself. So you're flicking your own turned into an elixir, your own Kālachakra self, which has turned all the impurity in yourself into pure elixir. You are elixir. So you're really flicking it out of your own skull cup, which is your own skull. But you have a little cup like that, which is a little more convenient. Okay, let's start there together. Om Buddhaya Namaha. Om Dharmaya Namaha. Om Sangaya Namaha. Om Vajrasattvaja Namaha. Om Prajaparamitaya Namaha. Om Svabhavikakaya Namaha. Om Dharmakaya Namaha. Om Sabhogakaya Namaha. Om Nirmanakaya Namaha. Om Jnana Vajraya Namaha. Om Chitta Vajraya Namaha. Om Bhak Vajraya Namaha. Om Kaya Vajraya Namaha. Om Chatta Vimokshebhyo Namaha. Om Chatta Brahma Viharebhyo Namaha. Om Saptatrimsha Bodhi Pakchika Dharmebhyo Namaha. Om Chaturashiti Sahasra Dharmaskandebhyo Namaha. Om Sarva Dharma Deshakebhyo Namaha. Om Ratnatrayaya Namaha. Om Shakyamuni Namaha. Om Kālachakraya Namaha. Om Dana Paramitaya Namaha. Om Shila Paramitaya Namaha. Om Shanti Paramitaya Namaha. Om Virya Paramitaya Namaha. Om Dhyana Paramitaya Namaha. Om Prajna Paramitaya Namaha. Om Upaya Paramitaya Namaha. Om Pradhana Paramitaya Namaha. Om Bala Paramitaya Namaha. Om Jnana Paramitaya Namaha. Om Jayagadebhyo Namaha. Om Vijayagadebhyo Namaha. Om Sarvachinebhyo Namaha. Om Sarvamutrabhyo Namaha. Om Chintamaniya Namaha. Om Dharmagandhyaya Namaha. Om Dharmaskandhyaya Skandaya Namaha. Om Kalpavrikshaya Namaha. Om Akshobhyaya Namaha. Om Ogasiddhiye Namaha. Om Ratnasambhavaya Namaha. Om Amitabhaya Namaha. Om Barochanaya Namaha. Om Lochanaya Namaha. Om Mamakaya Namaha. Om Pandalaya Namaha. Om Taraya Namaha. Om Vajadatishwaraya Namaha. Om Vajapaniya Namaha. Om Kagarbhaya Namaha. Om Sittikarbhaya Namaha. Om Lokeshwaraya Namaha. Om Savanivara Viskambiniye Namaha. Om Samantabhadraya Namaha. Om Gandhavajraya Namaha. Om Rupavajraya Namaha. Om Rasavajraya Namaha. Om Parshavajraya Namaha. Om Shadavajraya Namaha. Om Dharmadadatvajraya Namaha. Om Ushnishaya Namaha. Om Vignantakaya Namaha. Om Padmantakaya Namaha. Om Padmantakaya Namaha. Om Yamantakaya Namaha. Om Stambinyaya Namaha. Om Maninyaya Namaha. Om Stobinyaya Namaha. Ativiryaya Namaha. Om Atinilayaya Namaha. Om Sarvadharinibhyo Namaha. Om Shadangaya Namaha. Om Vajrachachikaya Namaha. Om Vajravarahaya Namaha. Om Vajramaheshwaraya Namaha. Om Vajindriyaya Namaha. Om Vajrabrahmanyaya Namaha. Bhaja Mahalakshmi Namaham, Bhaja Kumaryai Namaham, Bhaja Vaivjavyai Namaham, Astastarkena Chatushati Chaja Yogini Bhyut Namaha, Bhaja Vishnave Namaham, Bhaja Nartya Namaham, Bhaja Agnai Namaham, Bhaja Udadai Namaham, Bhaja Indraya Namaham, Bhaja Ishwarai Namaham, Bhaja Brahmani Namayam, Bhaja Vinayaka Namaham, Bhaja Kartikeya Namaham, Bhaja Vayavi Namaham, Bhaja Yamaya Namaham, Bhaja Yakshibhyo Namaham, Bharinyaya Namaham, Vayavyaya Namaham, Yaminyaya Namaham, Yakshinyaya Namaham, Mahabalaya Namaham, Achalaya Namaham, Takirajaya Namaham, Niladandaya Namaham, Sumbarajaya Namaham, Radakshaya Namaham, Bhaja Shangalaya Namaham, Chundaya Namaham, Burkutyaya Namaham, Manichaya Namaham, Pratyeka Samasa Bedana, Shashti Uttara Trinshad, Vajati Dvibhyo Namaha, Divibhyo Namaha, Shatrinshad Ichabhyo Namaham, Shatrimsha Pratichabhyo Namaham, Bhaja Jayaya Namaham, Bhaja Kark, these are the Nagas, Bhaja Karkotakaya Namaha, Bhaja Vasukaya Namaham, Bhaja Anantaya Namaham, Bhaja Taksikaya Namaham, Bhaja Mahapadmaya Namaham, Bhaja Kulikaya Namaham, Bhaja Shankapalaya Namaham, Bhaja Padmaya Namaham, Bhaja Vijaya Namaham, Shwanasyaya Namaham, these are the animal-headed goddesses. Sukarasyaya Namaham, Vyagrasyaya Namaham, Jambakasyaya Namaham, Garudasyaya Namaham, Ulukasyaya Namaham, Gudrasyaya Namaham, Kakasyaya Namaham, Sarvabhutebhyo Namaham, Bhaja Chandaya Namaham, Bhaja Suryaya Namaham, Bhaja Mangalaya Namaham, Bhaja Buddhaya Namaham, Bhaja Brihaspatiya Namaham, these are the planets. Bhaja Shukraya, that's Shukra is Venus. Bhaja Shanaishvaraya Namaha, that's Saturn. Bhaja Ketave Namaha, Bhaja Rahave Namaha, Bhaja Kalagnaya Namaha, Bhaja Dupe Namaha, Bhaja Agastyaya Namaha, Bhaja Nakshatribhyo Namaha, Bhaja Rasibhyo, Dvadasha Rasibhyo Namaha, Bhaja Shodasha Kalebhyo Namaha, Dasha Dikparebhyo Namaha, Bhaja Nandikeshvaraya Namaha, Bhaja Mahakalaya Namaha, Bhaja Gandhanaya Namaha, Bhaja Gurungarne Namaham, Bhaja Kshetrapalebhyo Namaham, Sarvadutibhyo Namaham, Haritabhyo Namaham, Sarvasiddhibhyo Namaham, Dhammachakraya Namaham, Bhaja Gataya Namaham, Bhaja Dundubhyo Namaham, Bodhivrikshaya Namaham, Om Guru Buddha Bodhisattvebhyo Namaha, Om to all oath-bound Dharma defenders Namaha, Om to all local deities, land deities, city deities Namaha, Om all beings bound for divinity Namaha. Then you yourself taste it on your tongue. Tasting the mead, may the body deities become satisfied. And then there's a bunch of praises. I bow to you, all these different people. And then you absorb on your top knot, which is at the crown chakra, in other words, you have the great bliss wheel. That is the Kālachakra Father, Mother with the 8 Shaktis around them. In my heart, in the hub of a 9-pronged Vajra, you have the Shaktis. So, great bliss wheel, just the major ones, and then you have the Shaktis there. At my brow, in the hub of a 17-pronged Vajra, the Buddha Lords and Ladies. At throat, in the hub of a 33-pronged Vajra, you have the Messiahs, Messiases, and the mind terrifics. Those are Bodhisattvas, mind terrifics. At the navel, in the hub of 65-pronged Vajra, you have the speech yoginis. In the secret, in the hub of the 33-pronged Vajra, you have the body fierce deities, the dragons and the furies, the nagas and the furies. In the action wheel, shoulders, elbows, wrists, hips, knees, ankles. In hubs of 12 31-pronged Vajras, you have 12 great body deities with their retinues. In the function wheels, in joints of fingers and toes, in the hubs of 7-pronged Vajras, the dragons and furies, all these deities proceed to these spots. So in other words, all the deities in the mandala come into your body in the end. So visualizing, I uphold my confidence as a one-faced, 2-armed Kālachakra and engage in the activities between sessions. And then you dedicate the virtue. Let's read that together. As the Buddha clan, along with the sun, originates from this attachment of wisdom, attainment of wisdom intuition, may the beings in the 3 realms become like that by the kindness of Kālachakra. Actually, before I read that, I want to say one thing. You know, all of the Indian gods and goddesses are there. So like what Kālachakra also is the Buddha throwing a big party for all of them. And although they're in their different places there, they also are all Kālachakra. But they are showing the forms similar to their other forms. And therefore they put Vajra Kumara or Vajra Ganesha or Vajra, because that means they're actually Kālachakra. They're clear light, But they're then from a Kālachakra point of view, they're creating themselves in those divine forms, So for example, when Shambhala comes and the whole world is doing Shambhala according to this kind of like whatever it is, then that means that all the angels of the Jews, of the Hasidics, of the Kabbalists, of the Sufis, of the Christian mystics, they'll be in the party. And you'd have a version, this is from, these guys were Indian, the people who went to Shambhala went from India, supposedly. And then they tried to run away back to India, and then they became like casteless, so they became democracy in Shambhala. And so that's really what it is. And then they join in the campaign to Kālachakrify everybody, to Buddhify everybody in an optimal way, is the idea, Rather than, we're better and they're worse. They do it their own way. They want to, some people would like to be Shaivites, then they're going to make them enlightened, meaning wise, compassionate, blissful, and happy as whatever they think is their culture, It doesn't want to squash everybody into some culture. And in ancient India, there was no word for Buddhists until the Buddhists left. Then they started calling them Bauddhas, secondary derivative of the word Buddha, Bauddha. But before that, they were only the Sangha from the non-Buddhists. When in Ashoka's edicts, in the 3rd BC, he just says the Sangha. He doesn't say the Buddhist Sangha or anything kind of Sangha. And the Buddhists themselves, they just say insider and outsider. And the Sangha means the community. So everybody knew that was the community. That was the kind of alternative social institution that swept over India. And even Aurobindo, thousands of years later, knows that, and then he's mad about it because he was conquered by the British, because everybody was a yogi instead of a soldier. So I just wanted to say that before. Okay, let's go back to this. For the sake of being's freedom, Vajras, while abiding on earth, may all beings remain in the 3 realms purified by the power of Kālachakra. May all creatures not be influenced by demons and lose their path in dark confusion in the ever-truthless. And may they attain this path, and may they soon discover this Vajra jewel home. Then it says, if you want more, let's read it. As my view by the power of the Buddha grew peaceful, so may it be for all beings. May the mind always relying on the path of smoke, that's the first in Kālachakra of the 10 signs, of dissolving. Laya yoga, transform into the great compassion of the victor. Endowed with vow and good realization of secret Kālachakra, may the Vajra brothers, etc., following the Lama, speaking well to each other, not resenting, taking the commitment of devotee Vajra, may they dwell in leisure in the import of the teaching. May we not associate with persons uninterested in yoga, who do bad deeds, unfit apart from holiness. It doesn't mean hatha yoga, that just means joining their lives to the spiritual, is what yoga means. May they not notice us, and may we worship our own lovely Vajra Lama. In the era of conflicts, may there be teaching of the great secret. May the evil views of fundamentalists be overcome. And having finished with such views, may those who aspire be tamed by the captain of the teaching. Then, that's very nice. Now, there's a thing where when you eat, yoga of eating. This thing of offering Bali, it's just, it's not, I can find that and give you that, but I didn't print that for you. But Bali means an offering cake. So like if you really get into where you're doing this yoga regularly yourself, then you could offer like a cupcake. You could take a cupcake and put it on your windowsill, first on your shrine, and then visualize that you're offering it, and all the deities are coming and having the cupcake. It could be vegan, or it could be gluten-free if you don't want to like poison the deities. But it could also, they don't mind a little sugar. They're deities after all. So, and then you offer that, and then there's a Bali offering cake routine, that I didn't print, but you can do that. And that's considered very auspicious and helpful, actually, because it sort of keeps the protectors of the tradition attentive to you and to your needs. And then when you eat food, first you offer a few bits to the Hariti and the Dutika goddesses, who then take the food and feed the hungry ghost types, which are not really ghosts, but the hungry beings, the pretas. So Hariti Pindaki Praticha Swaha. Dutike Agragra Sampraticha Swaha Ahum. Then after eating, you keep a little bit of the food, you put it in a little thing, and you take it outside yourself. Ka kahi kahi uchishta balim bhaksha bhakshaka swaha. And then you make a little prayer like that. Then the yoga of sleeping they have. And place the 6 branches ram. You know, that's the 6th one is that Om Ram Rim Hum 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 Ra Swaha, that second mantra that we did. So you take the ram and the 6 clans, A, I, U, A. These are long vowels, because I didn't have the sign for them when I wrote this, so I just doubled them. In the 6 nerve wheels, you know, the 6 chakras, and then train in holding the clear light of sleep. So I don't teach that it's too complicated for the mandala yoga of sleeping that I always share with people. But this is like holding clear light of sleep is very, very key, right? But those are the mantra syllables you put in your center of your chakras. And then when you get up in the morning, you imagine that the 4 female Buddhas, the Buddha goddesses or the Buddhesses, are singing those songs like, hey, get up, you know, come out of your drop of clear light and attend to things, you know, something like that. And you hear, or else goddesses and heroes waking one with drum sounds in the sky. That's kind of cute. Okay. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. Yes?
I'm just wondering when we're going to use all of
Yes.
Okay. I'm wondering when we will actually unravel this drum
Yes.
and use our bell and vajra.
When do you use it?
Yes.
Oh, well, when you use it, I don't have mine, but I do somewhere. But when you do any of those offering sequences, you know, where you do the hand gestures, you know, argam, padam, bit like that. And you pick up the vajra and the bell and the drum in the same hand with the vajra. So you're holding the vajra like this and you hold the drum in that hand. You know, and you let the tail of the drum hang down and you let the clapper swing free in the right hand. And first you pick up the vajra and the bell and you know, you have to cross your hands, that's right. Then you pick up the drum with the hand that has the vajra, and then you hold it at the top of the cord underneath it, but no, up, with the thing up above. So you have to somehow clamp the vajra. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. So you're holding the vajra down here, wedged in the thumb, and then thumb and forefinger are just up under where the clapper threads attached to the harness, like that. So you like this. Thumb and forefinger, that's right. Thumb and, yeah. You go like that, and then you ring the bell. And when you come to you just have it there when you're doing actually you don't pick up the drum right away, you pick up the vajra and bell. Then you make the offering things, and then when you come to shabda, which is sound, or vadye, Gita, Nirta, depending on which version you do. There are several music things in the 12-fold goddess one, but in the usual one, only when you come to Shabda, which means sound, which means music, then you pick up the drum just before that, and you ring the bell and play the drum. Those 2 things. But if you don't have a drum, or if it's too clunky, you visualize that you have a drum. And you just visualize it. But that's what you do. And you should get where you can do it with your fingers. You don't have to turn your whole wrist. You just do it with the fingers. You mostly do it with the fingers. If we all do the drums, then all the dakinis come. They respond to the drum. Okay. Whose is it? So that's yours, Mike. I see.
That's fun.
Okay.
So anytime you do offerings, you do
Yeah, when you do the offering sequences, you pick up Vajra and bell, and then you pick up the drum when you come to the musical part, which in the 12-fold thing is Vadye, Gita, Nritya, Vadye, Gita. Nritya is the dance, Vadye is the music, and Gita is the song. So when you have those three things, you do it there. And when you do the shorter set of offerings, it's Shabda, the sound, when you offer Shabda. That's what you use the drum for.
What were the three things? Dance and
What?
What were the three things? The dance?
Nritya, you'll see that. Vadya and Gita. Nritya, Vadya, and Gita. Gita is song, like Bhagavad Gita. Vadya is music, also. Actually means kind of speech, but it means music. And Nritya is dance. So dance has to go with music. Other question. They're nice, the drums. The damaru. Actually, Kālachakra has a special drum, which is called changteu in Tibetan, which is longer, and they usually have it's black and has a little deeper sound. And when you're Kālachakra, you're holding that, and you, rather than this kind of drum. But this is fine, this one's kind of fun. You'll see that the Dalai Lama on his table, he has this bigger drum called the changteu drum. And mainly, sometimes for other fierce deities, but very much so for Kālachakra. And I saw some pictures of it. Yeah, you see this one? This black one. That's called changteu. It's like a damaru, but it's bigger and has a deeper sound. That's the inner. That's a really good inner offering cup. But actually, it doesn't have the banners. There should be two banners in the corner of that, which is the wind, bow-shaped wind thing. And then there's the red triangular fire thing, and then the skull bowl is on that. And this is a lovely thing where they offer milk. In those things, in these conch shells, they fill them with milk, and they pour the milk into this, and it overflows. They do beautiful offering series when they do the self-initiation and before the thing, plenty. Because they have the idea that when you do an initiation or you receive initiation, that there should be a lot of offering and get the deities to come. Apparently the deities the Buddhas, they like to hang out. There's one whole chapter in the Great Samaja about get the Tathagatas to pay attention to you. Sometimes you're doing all the right things in the yoga and you're not getting results. That's because the Tathagatas are lounging around in Akanishta or somewhere, and you have to force them to pay attention to you. And that's why they then have that thing where they send out Vajravega to bring the actual duplicate Kālachakra and all the deities, demand their appearance, because they're kind of they're relaxing there, they're blissing out in the clear light and who needs it, what is that? Everybody will get here anyway. They tend to have a little tendency like that. They like to float around in the light. They're kind of lazy. Yes.
A non-Kālachakra question, but I'm a little puzzled. Why do beautiful, peace-loving, non-militant countries, Tibet right now, why do they have the karma to be so violently, invaded and?
Why do they have the karma to do that?
Yes.
Well, it isn't. You see, the nation, in a sense, you can say the nation has karma, but it's the individual continuum that has karma. And why do they get born in a place where they get invaded? Well, maybe because they're able to get invaded. And then they're able to somehow mostly keep their cool. Some fight and some die, then they're reborn. And they slowly, you have like Muslim, the wild Tajiks come in and strip down all the temples, Hindu and Buddhist temples in India, like Babar, who was like some kind of northern Iranian, Afghani kind of guy, Babar, I think. There's a registry that's in a Muslim history book about the metric tons of gold and jewels that he took out of all the Hindu and Buddhist temples and Buddhist monasteries per year, like inconceivable amounts. And they're very violent, right, those kind of guys, and they're not there, they don't pay much attention to their women. And a few centuries later, they're building a Taj Mahal to the Mumtaz, and they're getting more gentle. And Akbar in India tried to support Brahmins and Jains and Buddhists. He was looking for a few Buddhists and Sikhs, different things. And then, unfortunately, he was assassinated by Aurangzeb, some kind of half-brother, who then went around conquering more people. So, why is it why are the good guys? Okay, that's the question. I was thinking of saying that. Why does Vajravega, for example, able to defeat the demons? Why are the good guys stronger than the bad guys? Because when the Vajravega goes up against a demon or a god-turned demon, like a really powerful being, why does Vajravega win? Because the demon sees Vajravega as another being, and they sort of, I'm against that being. Whereas Vajravega feels himself, although adopting a fierce form, he is the aggressor who's attacking him too. He feels that. So he feels one with the person who is attacking him. So he can kind of absorb the movement of that one. And I once had an experience a little bit with I don't know if it was a demon or what it was. And this particular one was into materialism. It was in a dream or something. And it was constantly, didn't mind if the planet was destroyed. It's just a material thing. It's just like an atom. The planet is like a molecule. It's just like chemically merging with another thing. Something was going on like that, this thing. And I was confronting it, no, and it was mad with me, and so it was a confrontation. But then, because of the balm of emptiness, somehow subliminally coming, not that I understand it even now, and much less then, but the balm of that somehow, I guess, exuded from my ancestors, my spiritual ancestors, not a bunch of rednecks in America, but my spiritual ancestors. And they exuded through me, and suddenly that demonic being tried to turn their head away from me like this instead of confronting me. Instead of looking, looking at me, tried to turn away because they suddenly felt that their own atoms were like me. You follow me? In other words, they suddenly felt they were the same as me, therefore no reason to fight or confront me. You follow me? But to try to avoid that, they turned their head away, but as they turned their head away, they were feeling like the Buddha's behind me, not me, but the Buddha's behind me. They were coming through me, something like that. And that's the power. So the one who receives the blow, can take it. Now that doesn't mean a whole culture is composed of enlightened beings, but it means that the culture has made the beings somehow a little more receptive, more gentle, making that choice, having a faith in some reality beyond the body. So like the horriblest thing and absolute horriblest thing in the world is killing me. It isn't. It's very bad for the person who does it, but it's not the end for me, sort of thing. Do you follow me? Those, in general, the people, I'll go on, I'll be somewhere, I'll be back. Try not to be mad. I don't want to be back like you and kill you back, so I won't let hatred or anger against you infect me. Because I've had a happy life, because I didn't sit there in a fortress with like weapons pointed and bristling all over the place and devote my life to militarism, like you guys who came in attacking us, And here in India, we have good cooking. We have 2,000 versions of mangoes. You can hang out. And you guys are there in that rainy island, England, and all you have are tin mines. You don't have any diamonds there, and you have a few coal mines, and you have a horrible hierarchy. And you really do want some warm weather, some beach, some mangoes, a little curry. The Roman emperors bought their curry and spices and China and everything from India. So, and the Persian emperors wanted to conquer India, but never were able to in the ancient time under their Zoroastrianism, because the Indians at that time were too powerful for them. Because India had all great iron deposits. Also, India had the hugest bunch of iron in it. India is just a blessed, rich place. tremendous iron they had. So for the Iron Age weapons, And so the karma was, that's the only way they get to know the weird honkies, is be conquered by them. And the Muslims, is they conquer you. Then they hang out with those who survive. But they were really crazy. Like the Portuguese got to Goa, and they did this with the native people in the Americas. And then they have all this mythology, how violent the native people were in the Americas. They were not that violent. That's totally false. They saved their ass in Thanksgiving. A bunch of weirdo from England shaking their, what can we eat? We don't know what to eat. And they saved them. And then 2 Thanksgiving later, to take their land, they killed them, got them drunk and killed them. Because the Europeans were more backward and violent. That's the fact. Sorry. At that time. Bunch of Vikings, And the native people were more peaceful, actually. They lived in a tremendous bounty in America. Like there were deer that's walking up to like eat me. Didn't have to even run very hard after them in those days. But they, by no means were any of them perfect. But it's just that as a culture, like our culture, are we having fun? No. We have movie after Rambo movie after Rambo movie. Even this charming Game of Thrones is inculcating in us the idea that everybody's out to get you, and you have to kill them first. There's hardly anybody who's nice in that, right? You get revenge. It's endless, like revenge. And except a dwarf, I kind of really like him. I don't know why I like that guy, but those are brainwashing us that violence is inevitable and everybody's violent, and so you have to preemptively be violent. That's our culture. But so there's no fun. 1,000 billion. Probably, they say defense budget is 600 and some billion. But actually, it's well over $1 trillion if you consider all the real estate, all the property involved, the salaries, the whole thing. It's trillions. And we can't have daycare centers. We can't have decent roads. We can't have anything else. No health care, nothing except something that's making money out of us. No decent food. They pour oil on the field and then grow some weird shit out of that and give it to you, and then you get gluten poisoning or whatever poisoning. It's terrible. Then they pretend they're going to cure your cancer, and meanwhile, cancer's in the field there. So we're still backward, and all the effort goes into the militarism. So these other people, they were big fighters too. They were tribal, but they realized that if you're going to avoid what Wilhelm Reich called the emotional plague, which is inevitable for militarism, which involves desensitizing the person not to feel their own feeling. So they won't feel fear, and they won't feel tenderness, and they won't feel compassion. And then they will brutalize everyone else. And they'll be very frustrated because they won't really feel anything. They have no inner streaming, as Wilhelm Reich would have called it. And so they get their kick about being sadistic and see something wriggle in front of them, like shoot a deer, watch it wriggle, or gut a fish, or whatever they do something violent. So living like that is not pleasant, and you don't unfold your human chakras and your human understanding about, find the deep bliss nature of yourself and of the world. And so these Indian people, they made a choice, and other countries, they made this choice, and then the culture shaped them like that, and then they became less effective. Like China invented gunpowder, the compass. They had bigger ships than Columbus by far, but they didn't go out and take cannons and go and like cannonade London and Paris. They didn't bother with it. Why? The bad plumbing in Paris. Everybody peed and crapped in the street. That's why they made a lot of perfume. So why would they bother to go there? They had Ganga, and mango. Actually, it is said that they overcame their awe of the British and finally began to determine and develop their freedom, the Indians, because the Indian waiters in the British clubs, watched the British eat mangoes. And the lords and ladies, like a stiff upper lip, with all that weird hats. If you ever look at what the British colonialists wore, they wore all these kind of impressive uniforms and hats and tuxedos and things. Well, anyway, when they would fall to a bunch of mango desserts, you have to slobber to eat a mango. And then they would see them slobbering over the mangoes while they're standing like this, the guys with the turbans and the whole thing. Oh, they're human beings too. Oh, they're not invincible. They slobber over mangoes too. So the karma, that's the karma. The thing is, karma is a biological, of course, karma is not an absolute thing. It's a relative. It's a description of a relative life process. It's a biological theory. But the thing that it is it includes in it a respect for the individual. Because you make your own karma. Other people are involved with it because you're related to them, but you make it. You got to be human by your own effort. You earned your human form, not just because of your parents, some accident. You're not made by your parents. You're not owned by your parents, and you don't own your children. They come and they choose to be embodied with you for a while, and then if you die, the question is not really that you die. Everybody's going to die, but the question is, where do you go then, and how prepared are you to travel, and how are you going to navigate to arrive in a better place that you'd like to develop? Finally, the best places where you go only where you want to go. And of course, but ironically and luckily, because of understanding relativity, you will only you'll be, if you have to develop the ability to go where you want to go, you have to develop a love for others, so you will really want to go where you can be of benefit to others. You'll be reborn more like a human, more altruistic, more ethical. Humans are mammals even. Even mammal is a huge altruistic thing because mammal takes the young in the body, right? And then again, those militaristic, then this is a big thing for women. The militaristic, the guys are those soldiers until recently, more or less completely, and occasional Amazon, which might have been nomad women in Central Asia, because those women are strong. They're fighters also. But usually it's the men who are the fighters, and then they beat up the women. And then the women are more talking gentleness and sensitivity, and they hold the families together, and the men are like, having their Oedipal complexes, reverse Oedipal, and God knows what. Because the poor things are frustrated. Because they're locked up in you never read Wilhelm Reich in The Emotional Plague, what he called? Just look at, he has this most brilliant analysis of military posture. The neck is jammed back, and the diaphragm is scrunched in, and the pelvis is retracted, and the stomach is very rigid. And so streaming like a natural fear or pleasure streaming is like locked up. But mainly it's to control fear, so you can be violent. And a person who's a nice young person, likes the grandma and sisters and so forth, then they go to boot camp and they become completely cruel and frustrated. That's emotional plague. And it's not. And when a society is devoted to that, it resonates out into the non-military part of the society, and then you have a police state internally. And then you have schools that train you in military games like football, where you're fighting an enemy and you train in a team and you train. Those are all military games. And they spread the emotional plague. You get it at Harvard, at Exeter, Andover. They train you in that. So that's the karma. So the ones who conquered seem to be doing better, and they've been thinking, and they still do in my university and others, that because they conquered, that they're superior intellectually and otherwise, and that they're better, and these others are backward and underdeveloped and all of that kind of thing. But actually, they have miserable lives compared to the gentle person, whether poorer or not. And actually, they weren't poor. They went there. The reason they went there is because they were richer, actually, a lot richer. And they were much poorer in Europe. You couldn't get the Portuguese. Oh yeah, I was saying Portuguese got to Goa. Some guy brings out a thing, says, we now own this place. It belongs to the Pope and the church and the King of Spain or the King of Portugal, blah, blah, blah. It's now all ours. And you people are so lucky to now you're hearing the name Jesus Christ and the Savior and Yahweh and blah, blah, blah. End of scroll. Then they killed them all. They didn't try to convert them. Then they killed them all, took everything. And in 10 or 15 years, their studies, the pharmacies in Europe had like 100-fold the stock of medicines because they took all the herbal knowledge and everything from India. Not to mention all the wealth and jewels and things, but they took also herbal things and spices and things. Spices are herbs, they're medicine. If you take a lot of nutmeg and cinnamon and things like that, you will have less heart trouble. Everybody looks so So then what's our karma? To be born here amongst these people. To make them relax before they blow up the friggin' world with their nukes. Which is the ultimate expression of alienation, is a nuclear weapon. It's like hatred finding the ability in atoms to smash everything. Right? That's intense. Reckless. Only doable by people who are sure they're not going to be reborn in the place they're going to ruin. Subliminally, they don't think that. They're very kind, maybe have good ideas, kind, they're against some enemy who's worse than them, lower species than them. But underneath, it's because après moi le déluge is the slogan of the psychotic materialist. And moi is no longer there, you know. So we're there to make them happy and to be happy ourselves. The way to make them happy is to be happy yourself, in spite of it all. And as I said, that's my slogan. You didn't read my Why the Dalai Lama Matters? Remember the last word in the last sentence in that book, which was I wrote because the publisher asked me to make an epilogue with what I call the 10 points of hope. But then the last one is our resistance. This was before Trump, you know. Our resistance and our struggle is to achieve happiness ourselves. And our goal is to be so happy that even if they kill us, we'll die happy. I said that because I don't know why I said that. I don't want to die either, but if it has to be, it has to be. Then you have to do it. You have to be happy. You're going to be happy when you get away from the frayed nerves, you know. Get into the clear light. It's very serious. I'm sorry to be so serious. I apologize. But that's what we're doing. But see, the thing is, when you have a car, look at that. You think of in Gandhi's time, right? That guy who killed all the people in the stadium in the Punjab, machine gun with Gatling guns. Some people who were protesting. A famous Muslim nonviolent guy with him was killed in that, and Gandhi was very upset. And then what? Less than 100 years later, you have the Beatles running around with Maharishi and Ravi Shankar playing in the Madison Square Garden and so on. You know? So that's the absorbing of the violence and finding beauty somehow. You know, either the survivor or the person reborn. Hopefully, reborn in a place they like. The Buddhists overemphasize, I think, about how it's so hard to become a human. They do it in order to make us really appreciate our human life. That when we die, unless we've really done something about our unconscious, it's a great danger that we'll become subhuman in rebirth. They overdo that. They have this thing about the turtle in the ocean. It's really scary. But I think that in the Bardo, people will seek what they love. And humans are not really necessarily going to love being in a dinosaur egg or a crocodile egg or some weird warthog. You're not going to fall in love with a warthog couple that easily. So they won't be caught in a warthog womb that easily, I think. They're going to fall in love with a beautiful human, either father or mother, depending on their sexual preference. I think. But I may be kidding myself. I don't know. Maybe they're telling, maybe it's a fact. But I think people come back, to something. They try to stay with what they're familiar with, people do, I think. So that's the karma. But so I wait for the day when the West is ready to. It's like, okay, vegetarianism is a good thing, and it's good for your health, and to really eat more fresh vegetables, organic greens and things. Definitely, it's a huge difference from this meat thing, the meat obsession. So you have a person like Jeremy Rifkin, who I adore. I think he's marvelous. He wrote a great book about the mirror neurons and all this, The empathic civilization, it's called. It's fabulous. I love that guy. But he has a whole book called Beyond Beef, where he talks about how the destructiveness of the beef industry worldwide, And all even the so-called underdeveloped countries, the elites, when they start to make some money, then they want to go out and eat beef day and night, and they start getting cancer and freaking out. So he goes into all of that, and it's like what to do about it. And then it's a diatribe and a polemic of what to do about it. Not once in the whole book does he note, and maybe he didn't notice, that India became, the Vedic people are meat-eating cowboys. The Vedas, right? The sort of supposed dominant thing. They are herding cattle, and they're eating them. But once in India, after a while, they become absorbed by the Indian way, where vegetarianism is so much more sensible for an abundant population in an agriculturally rich area than feeding the food that grows out of the ground to the cow and then eating the cow. That's really stupid. So he never studies how was it that that country became predominantly vegetarian. It's not necessary to know that to rail about how the meat industry is destroying the planet. But how did somebody else already solve that problem? Who wasn't a big advanced Westerner. It's because the idea that we're advanced is so stuck in our head. So there's no true, all my 50 years of teaching, I would teach about meditation, they wanted to know, about some Buddhist art or something. But the idea that those societies were more developed than ours, and their life was more pleasant even though they didn't have the infrastructure and the subways and the cars and everything, that would really freak people out. But there was a very big turning point, at least in my time, but not enough really, but the big turning point was around 1973-4, when our people, were there were all these images of people crawling on the roof of the embassy trying to get in a helicopter and get the hell out of Vietnam, because a bunch of quote-unquote backward natives in black pajamas were like driving out this vast military power from their land. And that somehow changed the level of resistance to rethinking whether we're the best possible, thing. Happened at that time. There was a big shift in the sort of public mind, I think. I sensed at that time. I had less redneck battles in my classes after that. Within that, America does have something great about it. I do think in the 18th century that Jefferson, for all their faults, and these weird guys were kind of bodhisattvas, and they came out of the mother country, right? If you read Jefferson's second inaugural, he talks about we can make a new start here. He tried to learn Indian languages. He fell in love and tried to liberate, even before he fell in love with Sally Hemings, he tried to liberate his slaves in the Virginia legislature before there was a national legislature. He several times put bills in the Virginia legislature to free the slaves and to make them free citizens and employees instead. And of course they failed. The bills, were completely voted down. So I think these people were kind of bodhisattvas, and they try to create a system that would slowly bring these things together as imperfect. When you meet the real leftists, they go like, "Oh, we were almost killers," And yes, we genocided Indians and we were stupid and blah, blah, blah. But I think that there's something about the dream that it attracts everybody in the world, and as art and music, there's something nice about it. And we don't acknowledge that some of it comes from our connection to Asia and the presence of Asian populations here, and also our connection to the native people here, and the black people. And somehow the mixing thing was very intense here, and it continues to be. And then you have the occasional white Protestant freakouts like we are currently experiencing, when people are poor and when they're feeling deprived, but there is something good about it actually. And the wealthiest people in Europe were actually the Germanic people, and they were basically more peaceful. And the terrible Holocaust that they're all freaked out, where everyone's so freaked about, happened because the Italians, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the English, and the French, etc., had already driven all the Jews out of their countries and slaughtered them slowly and gradually over centuries. And there were a lot of them in Germany and Poland, where they could live better. And then there was a big spaz out when the British and the French used the World War I defeat to completely screw over the Germans. So then they went crazy, and they were taken over by their David Dukes, Like we're close to that actually, but we won't do it because we have so many other people here. They won't allow it. Half of our military is black. They're not gonna go into that, you know, because we have a volunteer army, and then they're driven by economic necessity to join the army. And I speak from a lineage of a bunch of generals. A lot of Thurmans. Even Strom is some kind of distant relative, that horrible character. Strom, O-N-D. That's the O-N-D branch. Anyway, I'm sorry to be so grim. We don't need to talk about it. Kālachakra is happening. It's part of the story. And pluralism and religious the real, in God we trust, all that stuff. That only started since the freak out of the Cold War and the communists, since the Russian Revolution. American money and we did not have slogan in God we trust. Jefferson and those guys prevented that. They did not have in God we trust on the money and oath of allegiance is under God, one nation. No, they didn't use God. They did not, originally. But the fanatics, Jerry Falwell, they act like they really wanted to do that. That was really what they wanted. We're a Christian nation, all onward Christian soldiers and everything. But that's all false. That's all recent. People not knowing history fall for that. The secularism was a good thing. We like secularism. Part of our experiment, not inflicting some sort of absolutism on other people. Are you happy? You look a little worried.
I'm not happy with the current situation.
What's that?
I said I'm not happy with the current situation.
Oh, of course. No, but that point is, you should be happy with it. We should all be happy with everything. But we should also change it and make it better and resist it and resist the bad parts of it, right? Out of happiness. If we let ourselves get, oh, it's so terrible, then we're giving up, actually. Then we don't have energy to really battle it, So we have to stay happy, and we have to laugh when we see some bumbling guy doing like tweets about he's going to pardon himself.
Right, and have compassion for his idiocy.
Yeah, but compassion doesn't mean making a bad face when somebody is suffering. Compassion means doing something about it out of a non-suffering state. Happily, sewing up their wound, like Cumberbatch in Doctor Strange. Did you see Doctor Strange? Yeah. Oh, Cumberbatch was sewing up before he became Doctor Strange when he was a famous surgeon. He was very skilled and very arrogant with the fellow surgeons, but he's sewing up some super tiny capillaries and things in the nervous system of somebody, and he's playing rock and roll in the room, and all the nurses and other surgeons are freaking out because it's like da-da-da-da, but he's like, So his sense of happiness in his skill is enabling him to sew it really well. He does a good job, But he gets too carried away, and he looks at something when he's driving and stupidly, and then he becomes Doctor Strange after a while. Breaks his body.
Bob,
Okay, goodbye. Yes.
Quick question, since you mentioned Doctor
You're the
Strange.
voice of doom, right?
Yes. No, since you mentioned Doctor Strange, they used a
What's
lot
that?
of. Since you mentioned Doctor Strange, they used a lot of mandalas and like Asian imagery. Did you notice that? Like when
Doctor Strange. Has anybody not seen Doctor Strange?
So my question is this:
book. You must see Doctor Strange. You'll love it.
Is the time
so
Bob?
outstanding.
Is the time gem he has? Is
What?
that the time gem he has? Is that the
Yeah, it deals
Kālachakra?
with time, and he's able to. He's one with time eventually, and he deals with the demon through time. Most interesting, really interesting. You should really see Doctor Strange. You might like it. Did you see Doctor Strange, Kim? Of course. What? Of course? Did you say of course? Of course. Good. Yeah, you have boys, right? Had to see it. Right. Okay, guys. Have a nice evening. And you're free this evening. Say a lot of mantras. We practice doing mantras together. And it's, imagine doing 100,000. That's what you have to do eventually, somehow. And we'll see you in the morning. I'll see you at 10 a.m. And Michelle will see you earlier than that, et cetera, right?
Yeah, so
Yes, Michael.
we're going to repeat what we did this morning, what you did.
Oh, wait a second, 1 second, Michael. Do we have the fire puja tomorrow afternoon or what?
We do.
If it doesn't rain.
After
So I have to bring my fire puja implements.
Yes, please.
Okay, and you're getting the substances?
I am.
Okay, and the firewood and everything?
That's right.
Okay, and you're going to Xerox the drawing so we can, like he did, like Dr. Nita did. That makes it so easy.
Totally.
Huh? Let's do that.